Hey! Hello everyone. How we doing today? Where is my camera at? Here, maybe? There it is. Hello everybody. Oh, this is spooky. Happy Friday. How are we doing this week? I'll tell you, I'm doing a lot better this week than I was last week. Because I'm not sick anymore. It was really weird. I had like it was like a 2-day flu or something. Happy Friday. Got an iced coffee here that is probably, I mean, I'm pretty wired per usual. Especially around this time of day. But I think I'm going to be more so because I was supposed to drink this iced coffee yesterday and I forgot about it. So I have it today. Prepare for me to be even more, what's the term? Easily distractible, which I'm sure if my team is in the chat, they're gonna love. Yeah, 3D. I've heard a bunch of kids are eating the ghost pepper stuff, chips and dips and other things. Yo, thank you for the gifted subs. Multiple. Thank you, Twiz. There's like a trend going on where kids are bringing those like ghost pepper chips to school and then just like shitting their brains out. So, oops. It's the new trading Pokemon cards. Download Fallout 4, looks up Wabjack. Oh, that's very kind of you, Wash. I have no experience. Honestly, I have almost no experience with any other lists. I really need to kind of dive in and try a lot of them. The one time we talked about Mavis Beacon typing for 45 minutes, maybe not that distracted, but you know, never say never. Haven't modded Skyrim in a few years, so interested in Wildlander. How's the graphics performance? Well, I mean, you can look on the website, Jordan. The performance is extremely scalable. I can show you why. In fact, actually, hold on a second. I'm gonna go, let's see, Shadow of the Colossus. This is a bit epic right now. Why don't we do, actually here, I've got a song. Let's see. Let me see if I can get an extended version of this. No. Oh yeah, maybe. There we go. Here's the jam. Yo, thank you for 14 months. 16 months, sorry, Prince Wolfchild. Let's see here. Ghost Pepper Whopper, huh? This is a jam, by the way. This is the dual song from the Pokemon trading card game from, what's it called? Oh my gosh. Game Boy Color. So anyway, the performance is extremely scalable. Well, okay, before I get ahead of myself, I do have an agenda for you guys, right? So first, we're going to be, since Twiz is here, and he's the one who built this out, we're going to knock this out quickly, so that he doesn't have to stick around for tremendously long if he doesn't want to. We got a new roadmap on the way, right? Yeah, this song's for Twiz as well. This is a classic. So we got roadmap. We're going to be taking a look at the new roadmap, what that's going to look like. I've been working on a major, I mean, you guys know I've been doing like a HUD redesign kind of here and there, but I dug into that a lot this week. 3, probably I'm gonna take a look at categorize favorites menu because of some stuff with Sky UI equip groups, and we're gonna talk about that. Before that, actually, I'm gonna talk about the Modlist dropdown, which is kind of pertinent to what we're talking about here. Yeah, Lizzie let me play with the HUD this week, so I'm very grateful for that. This is my reward for, what, 300 something, almost 400 mod suggestions knocked out, and then my goal, Lizzie, here, you can hold me to this. I hope to be done with the mod suggestions by the end of next week. Like, gone through all of them, which is not to say there won't be more, but there would be comparatively less. We have, what, 800 something suggestions that we've been working through, and I'm kind of in this effort to reorganize as we kind of move forward into 1.2.0 and 2.0, and you guys know I've been doing a lot of freelance stuff, so I'm really having to get my organization on lock, and it's part of that effort. And yeah, and then assuming we don't run out of time with all of that stuff, I'm going to be doing some of the suggestions on screen today. Yeah, Lizzie, write that down. You can hold me to it. That's what I need, frankly, is like descript deadlines. All right, first and foremost, so we'll do these first. We'll do the roadmap mock-up really fast, and then we'll take a look at the performance scalability through the launcher, which is a new feature that we just launched this week that our launcher dev Matt handled, which is really fucking cool. Okay. First and foremost, mock-up for... If I zoom in on Figma, I'll control zoom. Check this out. So this is a mock-up in Figma for the new roadmap page. That's just the download installation that we've been working on. Right now, some of you guys may have noticed a... Oh, thank you, CP. Yes, I do voice acting, or I've been doing, like, you know, some basic voice acting work. I'm really trying to step my game up here. And the tweet you're referring to, it's been kind of a problem because, you know, I live in an area where there's, you know, I live in a condo, and so we have people in our building, like an adjacent building. We've also got, you know, just standard sounds of the day, like lawn mowers and leaf blowers and those kinds of things. And also the flights from Burbank Airport are very, very audible in my room here. So despite the fact that I've, you know, built out quite a lot of sound absorption, there is a lot of sound bleed. The airplanes are unironically, or I guess I should say ironically, the airplanes are ironically the easier thing to deal with because they're regimented, right? Like, they happen every so often. You can see when they're going to take off. There's actually a website that lets you, like, track the flights as they're in the air, which is pretty crazy. So I can literally sit there and be like, oh, plane incoming, and, you know, just kind of stop for that brief moment. It's not ideal, but it's not so bad. The problem sources really are just the random sounds that you'll hear, like I said, lawnmowers or kind of yard work. Or this is actually kind of scary. There's a man in the apartment building next to us that we hear him shouting a lot, and I'm actually getting kind of, this just started. He's like a Russian man who sounds very scary, and I'm like, who is he yelling at? Because if he's yelling at someone who is like there physically with him, like, we might have to make a call, because this is getting yikes. Yeah, so anyway, you can't hear sounds when you're wearing these, really. So what'll happen is you'll do voice acting work, and you'll think you just delivered some killer fucking read, and when you listen back to it, it's like, oh, this is ruined. I can't use this at all. So I'm trying to come up with solutions for that. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at this roadmap. So we have... Some of you might have noticed, no, not Webflow, sorry, wildlandermod.com. Some of you might have noticed that I updated the roadmap page a little bit this week, just to at least link the mod suggestions page. So that's a start, but the idea here is to get the actual roadmap in here, and this is kind of a sneak preview of the concept that we came up with and that Tyler kind of built out. This is, placeholder art and copy, but you know what? Maybe we'll just keep it exactly as it is. The Elder Scrolls is a crazy universe. You never know what sort of content is possible within it. So the basic idea here is to... You guys know that we're a volunteer project. We can't super commit to, like, hard deadlines. It would be nice to be able to do, like, a roadmap in the style of, like here's one that I use as inspiration. Microsoft Flight Simulator roadmap. Right? flightsimulator.com/roadmap. So here you get, a very specific delineation of, wow, even like work week by work week. That's pretty impressive. So this level of targeted, date stuff is not something we can do, at least currently. Maybe one day, I don't know. But we probably not, if I'm honest, because again, we are a volunteer project. But yeah, so this is the kind of compromise that we came up with, where you would essentially, at least in this design, have, yeah, no kidding, 3D. You would essentially, I mean, I've talked about this a million times, but we are, and this is why, I mean, I mentioned this on other streams, so it's not too much of like a reveal, but I'm very strongly considering reintroducing the beta, like early access program, but in a way that makes sure to not violate any sort of terms of service at all, where all the files are, freely available to everyone, and what essentially you would be opting into as a patron is like the program, like, all of the things that you're going to need to get it up and running, like the specific order of everything, that kind of stuff. So that way it's nice and safe and no one can get mad at us. But we just, we're a volunteer team, and we try to operate the project as though it were like a professional dev project to the best of our ability. This is kind of part of that, right? We want you guys to have some inkling into what we're working on now, what we plan to work on in the future, because I actually get a lot of questions about, just what's coming in the like what the vision for the project is, and what, just feature, like what sort of features we'd like to get in there, what sort of feature set would have us consider the project like feature complete, like those kinds of questions. And we end up spending a lot of time kind of answering the same questions over and over because there's no roadmap page. So the idea here is that you would have, in the upcoming release, you have just whatever, generally speaking, like each content release will probably have one major milestone, right? An example, actually I would say this one has two, which is probably, I think we bit off a bit more than was, perhaps advisable, but hey, you live, you learn. So we have two for this one. One is the religion, and then the other one is jobs. And then you'd probably have little minor milestones, just little features, right, that are not extensive enough to require their own like major milestone page or thingy, but certainly they are enough to where you'd want to include them in some sort of roadmap page. So you would just have these little modules, right? And these are not like programmatically done. This is Figma, so it's a mock-up. But you would have these little modules. You can click them, and then they'll twirl down and then give you, more info on exactly what that milestone will be. Right? Pretty good. So I'm really stoked about this. I'm really excited with how it's kind of come out. And what I would actually like to do as well is that Tyler built out this kind of like, it's like an adjustment to the colors on the website, which this is just, for the design nerds among you, which you guys know I certainly am. I really like the colors here. I like that the background is a lot less dark than this one, right? Because with this, it's okay, and like this texturing kind of helps, but I don't know if that shows up for you guys actually. But the darkness of the background creates a high degree of contrast between the text and the background, and that can be kind of tough on the eyes. Something like this is a lot more readable and, nice and doesn't make your eyes explode, which I really like a lot. So yeah, everyone, round of applause for Twiz for helping with this mock-up. He was also tremendously helpful in the UI and HUD work that I've been doing lately. Him and I were kind of hashing a bunch of stuff out together, and I'm going to look at that in a second, but just for the sake of... Oh, also, hey, what's up, Jasmine? Sorry, I have not been catching up with chat. Let's see. Oh yeah, everything bagel mod. That's a big one. And yes, we do have a Patreon. The Patreon, at least thus far, has been like my personal income. And then our Ko-Fi coffee, I don't know how to pronounce that, is like our team. So everything that goes to Ko-Fi goes to the team instead. We actually ran into we had the Ko-Fi coffee, whatever it's called. Can someone please tell me how to say that? Like, which is correct? That would be really nice. I'm assuming coffee, because otherwise it's kind of weird. Coffee? Okay, good. Let's get an official ruling on that. So we had the coffee set up to, just allow donations to the team specifically, because obviously the team does a lot of stuff that I don't do. Like, the team is responsible for the support. I barely have to do support anymore because of the, illustrious efforts by our support team, by Lizzie and 3D and everyone else. The launcher dev team, I contribute to the design and the, what's it called, like what functionality we should be working towards, but the development of it is a completely separate part of our team. That's all for them. And we had that set up for the original release back in January. And PayPal was not super happy with this. I think they auto-flagged us as, you know, they thought we were some sort of business that we weren't reporting. So we got hella donations, and they locked our account. And I tried to get in touch with them, and I couldn't. So I just assumed that, you know, we were locked out. And what PayPal does when they identify that you are like a risky account and they've decided they don't want to host your account anymore, they lock your funds for 180 days. Because I guess that's how long they're legally required to hold it for, in case like someone refunds a service that you provided or a product. And at that point, they release it out to you and they say, you know, here's your money, fuck off, essentially. But before that released, or maybe about as it released, I found a different method to contact them, and I got actually to speak with somebody who was like, oh, our bad, because I told her, you know, we're definitely not a paid service, we're not anything, it's just a donation-based, like, volunteer thingy, and she was like, oh, okay, our bad, and then they unlocked it, so now we're back in biz with the coffee. Anyway, here's the mock-up. I think it's really amazing. It is everything I could have hoped for and more. I hope you guys like it. So I'm going to move this over here. And then let's take a look for whoever was asking, Jordan on YouTube, asking about the... Oh, there's a little sneak preview of the Illustrator file. The launcher, or just the general performance and graphics, right? So why don't we... Here. Well, I can show off the graphics. Let's hop in game, shall we? I'm going to close this, and then we're going to preview this really fast. But this is our kind of proprietary launcher. This is kind of the linchpin, the keystone for our, you know, scalability and kind of the user's ability to determine exactly how much graphics and how much fucking, you know, performance they want, right? We're very proud to offer this kind of level of granularity. I think that's something that was very important to me. You know, it's accessibility, number one. And very recently, and this is extremely exciting, very recently, Matt, our lead launcher dev, finalized this Modlist dropdown. We didn't used to have this. We only had the graphics and the shaders. The Modlist dropdown, we used to sort of have like this feature, right? But the idea here, right now it's standard Modlist, performance Modlist, right? Switching between these two will literally, in the background, change the mods that you are seeing in game. So this allows us a lot of granular control over, like, you know, like the performance mod list is what we used to call potato mode. Potato mode has you can see, I'll go ahead and close this out real fast, and then, or actually I can open up MO2 from the launcher, I should just do that. But this is my dev build, so it doesn't know that this is here. So you can see this is all working stuff. You have anything from here, this is full version, right, is how I've delineated it in the past. Everything from there all the way to here is disabled when you are on potato mode, right? Potato mode is literally just like, let's cut out as many graphical mods as we possibly can, and let people play, you know, that way if they have less powerful hardware. In the past, like, that's, you know, it's a really good start. I was really happy to offer that, but it was somewhat limiting because, yes, well, so you absolutely can, Camboy, and that's what I was about to get into. Camboy asked, could you technically do both performance mod list with ultra graphics because that seems redundant? And I'll explain to you why it's not. It's because, and so before the answer was no, which was a bummer, because there is a difference between what the graphics dropdown and the mod list dropdown handles. The mod list dropdown will change the configuration of mods that you're running with. The graphics dropdown affects I wrote like a little blurb for it there. Draw distance and quality of objects, lighting, shadows, and grass. Primarily, it does a few other things besides that. But the graphics dropdown is essentially any settings for anyone who's familiar with that kind of thing, right? There is a benefit to separating these out. The way we had it before, at the initial implementation of potato mode, had a very, very, like, basic, like, super, super basic graphics profile that was just embedded into potato mode, and there was you could not scale it up or down if you were playing potato mode. I don't even think there was shadows in that version. Oh, sorry, I'll change the music. Here, it is chiptune repeated, certainly not for everyone. There's a really cool jazz rendition of this song, but I'm afraid that if I play it, it's gonna get me demonetized, or I'll even turn it down a little bit. What am I feeling today? Why don't I just do this? Why don't I do... I have an idea. Here you go. Top 5 Mario song. Best Mario music of all time. This playlist. Let's see how this goes. Soulja Boy Mario? Oh my god. I hope I don't get demonetized for this just because this sounds like someone's original creation, but this is amazing. Yeah, we could do Castlevania. That's always like an easy one. This one's amazing though. I'm definitely getting my monetization. Like my last 3 videos have gotten demonetized, so it'd be really nice if we didn't do that. I'm just gonna go with Castlevania. I'm gonna go with my classic Castlevania. Let's do Portrait of Ruin OST. We haven't listened to that one in a while. There's Mario Kart 8. It always sounds to me like it's like the intro to Saturday Night Live, excuse me. Let's see, OST playlist. You gotta have the jams, right? Okay, here we go. And we're gonna shuffle this. Alright, so Portrait of Ruin is going in the background. Yeah, long story short, the potato mode was really, really limited because you couldn't scale up the graphics at all. You were just really limited to this like shitty graphics profile. And then eventually we updated it so at least potato mode got some basic things like shadows and that kind of stuff. But now, if you want, you can go into performance Modlist, which is essentially potato mode, and then you can also run it on ultra graphics, which means you're not going to have like the super intense graphics mods. You're not going to have, updated trees, and you're not going to have, crazy LOD render distance stuff, objects, and all that kind of shit. Or improved models really in any way except for the ones that are core, like essential. But you will have like a very long shadow draw distance, the lighting effects, the objects, actors will spawn really far away still, so you'll still benefit from all the rest of that stuff. And this is what gives you, just frankly, in my opinion, an insane degree of modularity. And even right now, like this whole standard mod list and like performance, I'm gonna expand that as well. There's a lot more we can do with it besides just, basic and potato. You can, like what I'm planning on doing is having, I'm going to divide it into like ultra, high, low maybe, or something like that. But there are mods that I really like. For example, this is like the easy example here. Can I skip ahead? There's no playlist controls. This is like the boss theme. I'm over it. This mod, it's like another boss theme or cutscene. Some of you may have heard of this. We're going Nature of the Wildlands, right? Nature of the Wildlands is kind of among, the list authors, like the new, and just modders in general. This is... Yo, what is up, John? Nice to hear from you. This is kind of the new hotness in tree mods. You can see here that it's just absolutely gorgeous. What Nature of the Wildlands nails, in my opinion, more than perhaps any other, at least singular tree mod. And let me preface this with, I love our current tree mod. Our current tree mod is Happy Little Trees, pretty much holistically, with like a few, Skyrim 3D trees smattered here and there. I love Happy Little Trees. I think that it is just an amazing balance of visuals and performance, and that's why I use it, right? However, this mod is just really incredible. It adds so many custom placements of different types of trees, which addresses what I think is probably the biggest issue with vanillas, or just the forests in Skyrim, which, excuse me, is homogeneity. of trees, like in the forests, you only have a handful of tree models that the game uses. Like pine forests, for example, like the full pines get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have like dead pines, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it, right? This mod says, okay, we're going to use those models and replace those, and we're also going to offer our own completely proprietary models, and we're going to hand place them all over the place. And the end result is just like in fact, here, why don't we just download this, and then I can jump in game and we can take a look. Nature of the Wildlands. We'll just leave those for now. Oh no, why is it downloading to you? No. Cancel. This is my dev build. Or stager build, I should say. This is the dev build. If we open this up, then it will download properly. We're going to close the launcher. And try again. So this is a mod that, like, even my system's pretty beefy. My system will struggle to play this, you know, in other areas, like in areas where I could be playing on Ultra and Ultra with both shaders and graphics drop-downs. For me, this mod will still, like an area where I would get 80 FPS in the forest otherwise will bring me down, you know, 20 FPS, we'll say. And there's other things we can do to optimize, but just the point being, the overarching point is that it's amazing, and it's this step above what would be something we're comfortable shipping, like, for everybody, just in terms of the performance we try to hit. But that's not really something we have to worry about as much anymore with this Modlist dropdown. What the Modlist dropdown allows me to do is have, like, I can have a profile that is just, hey, this profile has all the fucking, like, the nicest, best looking graphics mods that we use, and it's not going to be easy to get running. You would have to have powerful hardware to do it, but we can do that, right? And have everyone else who doesn't have that hardware be able to, you know, to utilize that, which is really cool. Or to not have to utilize it is a better way of putting it. I think they're nav meshed, Nichols. This is a common problem with forest and tree mods, is that sometimes the meshes are not what you'd call, either the areas are not hand nav meshed, or the meshes themselves are not what you call nav cut, which is where they're supposed to. Wait, did it download? What the H? Did it not? Oh, whoops, I didn't click the button, the extra button. A nav cut mesh is supposed to be auto-recognized by the game's nav meshes and, you know, essentially remove that section from it. Oh wow, 3 gigs, this is gonna be a big one. I don't know if that works 100% of the time, but, you know, I can look it up. Oh yeah, and so what Lizzie's saying is, like, hard mode, this Modlist drop-down is not limited only to, like, graphics mods. We can essentially just have whatever, you know, profile of mods we want. So it allows me to do things like hard mode. Something like the hard mode that we've been planning, I think, is better suited as, like, a tick box, which is what we're also kind of working on in the background with, like, you know, just other launcher features, right? But yeah, it's very exciting. I was just talking to the team today about how excited I am for this feature, because something we are also working on, and I really can't give you guys a timeline for this, and it doesn't really matter, I think, probably to y'all anyway, although maybe it would if you play other lists, but we are trying to generalize the launcher as well, so that the other list authors can make use of this launcher technology for their own lists. This would, at the very least, they would have access, you know, to the different graphics drop-downs and things like that. But I think they could use, like, I imagine someone, for example, like Forgotten Glory, who has several different mod lists. I think, honestly, this is more common. I think many list authors like to create multiple lists that all have kind of like a specific different focus, right? So, like, for example, Forgotten Glory has Living Skyrim 3, and then also has, like, Path of the Dovahkiin, which is supposed to be, like, Living Skyrim 3, I think, is probably his, like, flagship. Path of the Dovahkiin is like a mod list that is specifically built to kind of simulate an ARPG, like a loot-based ARPG, like, you know, Diablo or Path of Exile. So it's just chock full of, you know, not algorithmically generated, but, you know, just tons and tons of like loot of varying types, and I think like more dungeons and stuff like that. So you have a lot of list authors who, instead of kind of focusing on one, like all I do is make Wildlander, and the kind of dichotomy there is that Wildlander, you know, I'm constantly building on, we're constantly polishing it. It's probably, if I had to guess, I don't know this, again, I don't have a ton of experience with the other mods or mod list, but I think like Wildlander, I really oh, this is a good song. I like to just really focus on like the polish and the user experience, right? It's different. It's not trying to they're different goals. But so anyway, someone like Forgotten Glory, if they got their hands on this launcher and like this mod list drop down, in theory, you could use the launcher to like install all of the Forgotten Glory mod lists, I think. And then like assuming, okay, the one exception, well, you could still do this. I was thinking like if you had a mod that's installed and used by multiple lists, but you would just need to, you know, if there's a difference between how they're supposed to be installed, you could do that. But yeah, so you could have just, you know, I could like lower that drop down and be like, oh, today I want to play Living Skyrim. Today I want to play Path of the Dovahkiin or whatever, which is really cool. And I'm really excited about that. And we're going to see what the best kind of path forward is for something like that. I think in the meantime, we're trying to work on kind of like a one-click, like integrated Wabbajack install as well. We'll see what makes sense. Nolvis does that. Yeah, I heard of Nolvis like somewhat recently. I was looking into it a lot. I would be very curious to try it out. One thing I will say, what I will say is, we always joke, me and my friends, about how commonly we say that. Nolvis, while I love the stylization of their like website, that shit loads slow. Like, let's show off Nolvis really fast. I've never met the Nolvis team. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but I thought this was cool. I think it's, yeah, nolvis.net. So, again, my computer is very beefy. This is like a solid 10-second load for your homepage. 15 seconds. That is, to me, like no way. You know what I mean? Like this looks great. You know, I hope it's, ooh, I love these models. I know those ones. So yeah, you got all this cool stuff. I think, yeah, they built their own auto installer software, which is great. And this background thingy, right? Very cool stuff going on here. But that to me, I'm just like, yo, you gotta make your website. Like I used to have the Wildlander animation, right? When you would open up the Wildlander page, the home page, and I even got rid of that because I mean, for me, it's responsiveness is key. Like if you look at it's just like, boom, there it is. You know what I mean? And you can click and go wherever you want. That's just my own kind of design usability business. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel Twiz. I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's a good enough design in the whole freaking world that justifies a 15-second load page. But anyway, this is me. It's neither here nor there. What was I saying? Oh yeah, drop down list, really cool, and we'll figure that out, and I think it's gonna be fun. Let's go ahead and try out. Oh yeah, my download speed. I mean, thanks for Nexus Premium, or thanks to Nexus Premium as well. Yeah, look at this shit. Like, are you kidding me? I know it's the same screenshot we were looking at. Without enhanced landscapes. Now, my frame rate is going to be worse than usual anyway because I'm streaming from my main PC. Yeah, I want autumn birch trees. For show. 3D LODs for Dindulad 3, you can severely damage the performance of your game. Sure, why not? I mean, we're not going to be using them anyway. Patches for all kinds of stuff. This is another jam. I'm not going to install any of these because this is like a little demo, right? Install. BSA, huh? site needs a little work in terms of security headers. What does that mean? I don't know much about InfoSec. I know some things because a lot of the freelance work that I do has to do with like B2B and SaaS companies, right? Just like editing interviews and things like that. So I've actually been learning a lot more about kind of like SaaS as an industry and B2B services. And obviously InfoSec is a very important thing in that sphere. I'm afraid I'm going to be making like gross mouth sounds into these, so I apologize if so. Alright, nature of the wildlands. Let's see. Chill. We're just going to let this sit at the bottom. Oh yeah, I was messing with Eldon Equip too, which is super fucking cool. Alright. Oh, and then also, this is a good segue into the HUD work that I've been doing, because I needed to test something in-game, and I'll be able to do that here. Yeah, I think we're good. That's my overwrite. Nemesis engine, who cares? Skyrim platform, that's okay. SKSE, that's okay. Alright, sweet. Let's hop in game. There's something else I wanted to reply to, and then oh, there's a skip button in the bottom right. Interesting. Okay, let me recheck that. Wow, I have a lot of things open here. Let's try it. Nolvis.net. Oh. Wait, is this because it's cached? Did I click something? I don't know. Also, you'd want to... I mean, there's definitely, in terms of the design, there's some stuff that I would change here. I would be happy to do that. Not for free, but I'd be happy to, you know, just adjust a couple... It's like, clearly this is someone who cares a lot about making a cool looking thing, right? There's just a couple little design... Like, you'd probably want to back this logo somewhat so that the contrast is not so non-existent, right, between what's back there. I've been thinking a lot about this kind of stuff lately as we work on the HUD. Yeah, it's a bit over the top. You could kind of crank it from 11 down to like 6, we'll say. Just be a little bit more subtle. But it's cool. Like, the reason that I like it so much is just because, again, it shows that this is someone who cares, right? This is someone who, like, for better or for worse, has a vision for the design that they're trying to execute, which I always prefer to someone who just, like, doesn't give a shit. It doesn't always produce, like, you know, the best results. A good example of this would be... I'm gonna go... Hold on. Let me close this out. Oh, this is another jam. I'm gonna do... God, what's the mod here? Hold on. Sands of Time. Yeah, Ultimate Deadly Encounters. I feel like this is going to be one of them. Yeah, okay. So here is... I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Sands of Time modder team. The Sands of Time team has made lots of stuff throughout the years. Really cool things. They generally trend towards what you might call kind of hardcore features, or like features that are akin to what you would find from more like classic RPGs, right? Thank you, Noxon. I'll address that in a second. So yeah, the Sands of Time team does a bunch of stuff like that. In terms of like style, we'll say, in design, they always kind of stood out to me because there's this very like, how do I put it? Like MySpace, like what's not MySpace? What's the like early internet, like Web 2.0, like kind of GIFs and graphics like style to it, almost reminiscent of like late 80s like metal or something. Like if you look at this image, and I hope this is not me I say this out of love because I think, again, the idea that someone took the time to like do this is to me very endearing. In this image you have 3 different fonts that are all scaled completely differently. They all have a different kind of style to them. Where it says the Way of the Dovahkiin up there, it's like the opacity's not 100%, so it's like partially translucent or transparent. Ultimate Deadly Encounters appears to be similar. It has a little bit of, you know, transparency. None of them are like backed at all in any way by any sort of like contrast that helps the text like appear. So you can see like the S like bleeds in with like that, you know, what's it called? Hourglass. And then here at the bottom with Sands of Time, you have not only a completely different style of font with like the old English, but it's got like a pseudo like shiny effect on it that kind of like makes it seem like an object, like a 3D object, and it's got a drop shadow. So this is just all over the place in terms of design, but it's, I don't know, like take this over just, you know, like a single text on a page. Ironically, the text on the page would be, it's more readable in terms of functionality. It's better for sure, but it's less interesting. Like this, again, even if you know, this does not adhere to what you'd call like design principles. This is the kind of thing that you get when it's like someone who's interested in design but has never had, you know, much formal training in design, I would guess, makes something, right? Which is, to me, it's like, yeah, fucking do it. Like, it's so much cooler. Anyone who's willing to like make a design and put it out there. Brene Brown has it's her version of the old oh my god, President Roosevelt, OG Roosevelt, not FDR, has like the quote of where it's like the man in the arena, right? I'm gonna find that one over here real fast. We're very sidetracked, but I just think this is fun. Man in the arena. Theodore Roosevelt's The Man in the Arena, right? Yada yada yada. Widely quoted street. Yeah, okay. Now this is, I think criticism is important. I'm not saying that I agree with, you know, every single component of this quote, but I think it's an interesting quote. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. It's a very long-winded way to say, hey, it's almost, I like Brene Brown's version is kind of like, look, unless you're out there, like putting yourself out there, you're making something and like putting it out there, kind of what you say maybe only, I mean, you know, you can still have an opinion, critics have an opinion, and they don't necessarily make the things that they criticize, but as you know, it's no secret that many critics who transition from like pure criticism to trying to make whatever type of thing it is that they try to critique, or that they critique for a job, it's a lot. And especially with like game dev, it's you know, idiomatic at this point how many people transition from like criticism to actual game dev and go, oh my fucking god, there was so much stuff that I like didn't know about game development, and like holy geez. And it gives you a different perspective, the way that only experience kind of can. And so anyway, as it relates to a design, is like I have, you know, buckets of respect for anyone who's willing to like make a design and put it out there, and who cares and like has a vision, you know what I mean? Anyway, it's neither here nor there. Let's look at Skyrim. Oh, wait. Fuck yeah. Hold on. Just gonna... Here you go. This is Divine Bloodlines. This is one of my favorite songs in the Castlevania series. And everyone is their own worst critic, for sure, Kai. Or almost everyone. Here we go. Let's load. More side. Told you guys I'd be wired. I'm only not even halfway through the coffee yet. Okay, let's see what happens when I hit X. The health bar is gonna freak out. You ready? Okay, cool. Hell yeah. Alright, that makes me very happy. Let's look at some trees. Nah, let's go Falkreath. Exterior 01. Actually, you know what? We're in Morthal. Let's see what the Morthal trees look like. And I'm going to pause the music. I have this really annoying thing that I've done where, okay, I don't know what it is. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it's something Adobe specific. I'm beginning to think not, because I've seen it happen with some of my other windows. But I have this bug where sometimes in Windows, I will accidentally hit a key that triggers the contextual menu for, like, let me see if I can make it appear here. Nope. See ya, Chrome. So we're about to look at the, god dang. I believe he did the Morthal swamps in the most recent update. So that's pretty fucking cool. Also keep in mind, these trees are going to be a little bit bigger than they're supposed to be because I have my own custom, like, tree embiggener patch, right? Because I wanted the heckin' oh my god, happy little trees to be just a little bit bigger. So yeah, this is some shit. God mode enabled. And let's go ahead and get rid of the interface too. So this is nuts, right? It's really crazy. It's beautiful. And this is also, it's actually not running that badly. Where am I at? 50 FPS, pretty dense area. They're bigger than they're supposed to be. I'm on max settings in terms of shaders and, what's it called? Shaders and graphics Dropdown. I am streaming on this PC, and I'm in 1440p. And my FOV is 105 for Special Edition. Let's see, FOV 105, yep. So here's some sick-ass swamp trees. So you can see what I mean kind of right off the bat in terms of variety, right? You have a lot of different kinds of trees. Oh, I can say that too. So like any of the custom placements, like let's see if we can spot some. That's one. This tree here, I don't know which are the pine trees. That's one. That's another one. That's another one. This is another one, guarantee. Yep. This one. These are all completely proprietary records, so they are the size that they're supposed to be. The ones that will be too big, probably this one if I had to guess. Nope, that's a proprietary one as well. God, can I even find like a regular pine or like one of the replacers? Here we go. So this is one of the original Skyrim trees, right? That one's been replaced, but every single other tree I just tagged was a proprietary inclusion by nature of the Wildlands, which means it's also hand placed. So the amount of work that's gone into this is just unfathomable. And you can see what I mean, hopefully, with the variety of trees just really adding something to the realism. If you've ever walked around in a dense forest, you'll know that, like, there's just, I mean, of course it depends on the type of forest, but there's a lot of variance in vegetation. A lot of people might say. No, it definitely will not, Cisco. That would be, I would kind of file that under the, on the roadmap, I would put that under like a major milestone probably. Oh, I'm about to get hit by poison. As I was talking, I like saw it over here just like, bing. That's what I would call kind of like world takeover, like interactivity, right? Yeah, forests are messy. That's a good way to put it. Also, Cisco, I saw in the chat, what were you mentioned earlier you had some issue with potato mode? What was that, if you don't mind me asking? Yes, I know. Also, what's up, Monique? This is the better optimized version, which is really cool to see because the versions that I had tried previously were still beautiful, but definitely even more of an FPS killer. Stop shooting goo at me. Also, I still got to figure out exactly what about that spit has that kind of bright effect. Ugh, still makes me creeped out. Yikes. Fall Creek exterior 01. Potato needs some work, but you're already working on it. Oh, cool. Well, that's my favorite kind of bug, is one that we've already saw. Or what was the issue? What was your issue with it? Why is it so rainy today? Okay, so here's your pines. Now this, all right, I'm in the middle of Falkreath right here. I'm looking at Falkreath. So there's hella shit right now, draw call wise. The idea that these forests are still allowing me to, at this precise spot, get 50 FPS roughly, a little bit less, that's pretty fucking nuts compared to like how it was before. The health bar is small because I was fucking around with some stuff. I'll get to that. I promise that it's not necessarily going to stay that way either. It was like an experiment that I was doing with some of the HUD shit I've been working on. So yeah, I'm over here. You know, your boy's in Falkreath. He's going on a nice little walk. Let's go ahead and what's it called? Let's set game hour to 12. Let's go 15. That way the sun is going to be a little bit over there. I kind of like this lighting. It's a nice natural lighting. So yeah, I'm walking up this hill. Your boy's going on a nice walk. This is fucking nuts. The idea that you're getting, with all that stuff that I said, you know, the highest settings that we have, and I'm streaming, and I'm in 1440p, for this to look this good, have this much model variance, and just run like this is nuts to me. And again, I love Happy Little Trees. I think it's an amazing, amazing mod. And there's probably still, you know, models and stuff that I would use from it. But it's just fucking, this is nuts. It's just so much, again, to me, like, who said it? Kai, forests are messy. Really want to love those trees in my set. The leaves end up looking super over-sharpened. Interesting. What's the secret that made the FPS good? I mean, I have to, there's really, the secret is that there's no secret. It's, what's his face? Dr. Banner. Or at least so I imagine, just from, you know, my own knowledge and experience. You just got to optimize, right? Like, you got to take models and you have to reduce poly count in areas where, you know, it makes sense. In areas where it doesn't matter. You have to be mindful of the poly count. I mean, generally speaking, as we, you know, there's been so many kind of, oh yeah, we can see what the snow trees look like. Let's go my favorite Nightgate in exterior 01. With so many different tools now coming out for grammetry, see, like these, I still think these are very nice, but I might actually, I mean, actually those are very nice. I still might prefer Happy Little Trees versions. I really like the snow trees from Happy Little Trees. You can see the 3D LOD out over there. That's what they look like. I really like them a lot. I might even like them more than this. This still looks really good to me. But, you know, that shit's just, I love how snowy it looks, you know what I mean? Like this to me, the snow just looks, because it is a decal, it's built into the texture. So it kind of, you know, you don't get, I mean, it's also built into the texture, but in a very careful way, right? So this is what I mean when you probably want to kind of mix and match. And I do believe that the author, you know, they're, as far as I know, just one person working on this, and they've kind of been doing each bit in piecemeal. They might be, I don't know, working on, these might be placeholder, I have no idea. But you can just see, let's go to everyone's favorite. I don't know if it's everyone's favorite, but my favorite, Riverwood. And then we'll go to the Rift. Yeah, optimization. Anyway, so you have all these kind of photogrammetry tools. What that means for those of you who aren't familiar is, like, you have a lot of tools now that help developers and modelers capture very, like, photorealistic kind of models and textures for just objects, right? Rocks, trees, whatever you want, really. And you can kind of, the tools have been developed to convert them into, like, usable models for, like, games and stuff. It's very easy, I think, to, you know, it's actually kind of easier in a sense for those of you who kind of don't know this stuff. It's easier in a sense to just kind of create a super high poly model and call it a day, because then you're not optimizing. You're just making the best looking thing that you can. That's not easy to do. But you just made a really good looking model, and then you kind of, it's like, all right, I'm done. And what you'll end up, hey, fuck off. What you'll end up kind of dealing with is, you know, you'll have this beautiful looking model that is just hyper realistic or whatever, and it will tank the frame rate of your players, right? So that's a problem. And so what you got to do is, oh my god, this fucking chat, this spam, YouTube, get on this stuff. Here. Let's get you there. We're going to do, I got to go on my own channel right now. YouTube.com. Would this work? No. Hold on. Hey, I do have my vanity URL set up. Thank you guys. You're so helpful. I really appreciate it. Remove. Go to channel. Hide user on this channel. Remove. Oh, they automatically get deleted. Okay, well. There it is. Sweet. Pee pee poo poo. You guys ever see that tweet or like the meme? It was just a screenshot. I like how everything's just a meme. I don't even know what other word to use. It fits. This lady had, she got like a what she thought was like an auto like notification for a doctor's appointment, right? And it was like, you have a doctor's appointment at wherever, like, please reply to confirm. So she texts back pee pee poo poo. And then the person, it was like a real person, like the office manager who had sent that to her, and was like, is that like a confirmation or not? She's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. I thought this was an automated message. Like, yes, I'll be there. I love stuff like that. What a very relatable human. Oh, I started to say this earlier and got sidetracked. And I say this, I only bring it up again just in case anyone's experienced this and you know of a solution, because it's driven me insane. I have this weird bug happening where sometimes I'll like hit keys on my keyboard and it will open up this like contextual menu. Let me see if this menu, or if you right click a program's like top bar and you get like these options, right? That'll just pop up, and it happens to me a lot when I am video editing, right? And it's super annoying. And at first I thought you can actually bring that menu up by hitting Alt spacebar, and I thought that might be responsible, so I wrote a little AH hotkeys or whatever auto hotkey script to prevent that from happening, but it was still happening. I found someone online who had the same. I'm definitely not Finn. I'm like, it's literally spacebar is like all I'm hitting sometimes. And I thought it was the Alt Enter. I was like, okay, maybe I'm hitting Alt spacebar at the same time. And nope, it's not. And so finally I found like an auto hotkey script that goes really intense and like does solve the problem, but it basically makes it so that every time I want to like Alt tab or do anything, I have to like double tap, Alt, and it's just like such a pain in my asshole. So if anyone knows of a solution to that, I would be forever, in your debt. I would very much appreciate it. Yo, what's up, Rick? Also, yes, Tyrannus, Lizzie already answered your question, but you do not need to do anything besides make sure you're on the latest version of Skyrim. So yeah, here's your forests. Shit is nuts. End of story, really. I think it's pretty fucking incredible. Anyway, and so the reason I showed all this stuff to you guys is that now, with this new feature, it is feasible for us to include a mod like this, even though not everyone would be able to run this mod. And that's because not everyone has to select the profile where this mod is enabled. For everybody else, you can just, you know, use the, what's it called? The slightly lower option, and then you'll get like all happy little trees, we'll say, right? Keyboard shortcut fix mod. This is a mod for, what is this, Finn? please send it. Please, if you can post it on Discord, I'll take a look. Thank you very much. Yada yada yada. Thank you. Wait, okay. This is. I mean, that's fine. This is a Windows wide issue that I'm having. Ouchie. Oh, I forgot you guys aren't friends. Oops. Might be. Anyway, here's what's it called? There's the trees mod, and that's basically the whole. Yeah, I'm thinking. I mean, I need to test and see. That was like my first thought. I was like, what if it's just my fucking keyboard? So, and I mean, I probably have another keyboard lying around here somewhere, so I really should test that. We'll see. But I'm also just curious, like, what the fuck is happening? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Whatever. Maybe it's wires are getting crossed. You never know with physical hardware. Anyway, I mean, so yeah, that's kind of the drop down, right? Kind of gives you an idea of where we're going with that. What's next on the agenda? We got... Oh, yeah, of course. HUD stuff. So, that little short health bar, right? Lizzie, I did that manually on purpose. And the reason for that, I will show you guys. So, preamble here is I've been fucking around with a bunch of... You guys know I've been working on the HUD. It's pretty likely that the HUD changes will make it into 1.2.0. And I've wanted to do this for a very long time. It's not guaranteed because at the end of the day, like, the other features are higher priority because we have a functioning HUD right now. It works currently. Whereas the religion and the jobs are, you know, we have to build them out. Lizzie's already pretty much built out at least, like, you know, the core feature of the jobs update is the missives expansion, which is just, like, we can take a second to talk about that really fast. Lizzie, you all already know, has been working her ass off. Also, yes, Tyrannus, this Wildlander, you could consider it it's a sequel, it's a spiritual successor, whatever you want to call it. It is the direct continuation of Ultimate Skyrim. It's Ultimate Skyrim on Special Edition. It literally was called Ultimate Skyrim SE until we decided to change the name so that I could kind of make it its own unique thing so that I could make stickers and merch and Bethesda wouldn't get mad at me, hopefully. So yeah, Lizzie's been working on the missives boards, right? Or like the expansion to the job system there. It's fucking gnarly. She essentially is done with the good guy missives, right? We have a limited group of testers who have been testing it. Very rarely do you see a feature, a new set of features this extensive that receives so few, like, bug reports or issues of, like, any kind. And unless Lizzie is hiding them from me, which I don't think is the case, like, it's just extra fucking solid. So I'm really stoked about that. I've talked about it in other streams. We'll talk about it in future ones as well. Excuse me. But there's also, like, little things, like, some of these are the jobs mods. Are they? Actually, maybe they're not. I haven't installed them, reinstalled them. But yeah, so jobs and religion, those take precedence, I would say, over the HUD. When all is said and done, I'm going to have to finish those first instead of just, you know, working on something that's fun for me, but not exactly the highest priority. But it's really fun, and I'm going to show it to you guys. Like, what I did want to actually sit down and dig into it, like, a fair bit. And again, as she said earlier, Lizzie and the team did allow me to do this, so I'm very grateful. It's because I've knocked out so many mod suggestions. But, in fact, let me put this over here. Whoa. Illustrator just freaked out on me. The kind of concept of the HUD, y'all know generally how I feel about it if you've followed the streams. But if not, I really like HUD design. It's something that I feel is very important functionally, and also very important for look and feel, for lack of a better phrasing, the vibe, right? I think that the HUD in games can be a huge impactor of just kind of how it feels to like be in the game world, right? It's subtle. It's a weird thing. It definitely falls into that category of design where like someone who's not interested in that sort of thing or looking out for it probably wouldn't even be able to like vocalize or form like how it feels or like the impact it has on them moment to moment, but there definitely is one, and it can be significant even if it's like hard to quantify, I think, for some people. With all that said, I've been trying to kind of figure out a more unified HUD, one that is, you know, very uniquely ours and uniquely the vibe that I have wanted to kind of impart. You guys have seen shit. While I'm talking about this, because I'm sure we'll have time for Skyrim to start up for how long it takes me to explain things. Yeah, UI is absolutely a very important part of the UX. UX being user experience, for those of you who don't know. Also, you're very welcome, Tyrannus. These streams are for people to ask questions as much as they are me showing off the work of the week, so go nuts. The HUD that I introduced with Wildlander 1.0 or whatever, I think 1.0, was a big step in my opinion because it brought us a lot. It was a new design, like the elements were in a different spot, and it was this, you know, demo of my kind of functional design for gameplay, we'll say, where it's like having it's largely focused on eye travel, kind of having the most important elements like relatively close to where you're already looking, because the game is very difficult and you need to know a lot of that stuff kind of at a glance. So it's not, you know, teensy tiny out of the way. It's kind of right there for you to be able to see quickly. Along with that design, there is this, you know, simultaneously, I think that when you take something, I'm going to load our more side so I can just use, I'm not going to hit X because that's what'll make the health bar short. And I'll explain that in a little bit too. So if you look at this HUD design, right, I like it a lot. I think it's pretty fucking decent, right? You have down here, I'm going to do this. Oh no, if I do TM, it'll get rid of my cursor. In the center bottom, you have all of like your super important stuff, right? These, as of right now, all of these components are persistent. They're always there. That can kind of be a problem. Before I get ahead of myself, you have this down here. It's what I like to call your vital HUD, right? Yeah, you probably would notice that, Peon. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in a second too. Also, thank you, Carps. I'm glad you like it. Hopefully you'll like the continuation of the design even more. So we got this, what I call the vital HUD, down in the bottom center. Over here on the left, you have the compass and, you know, like a date and time. And on the right, for you guys, you would have the, what's it called? The, actually here, let's put it in. I think it should still be configured, but I'm actually not sure. Meters, display mode, always on. Yeah, there we go. So this is essentially the HUD that you guys currently see. Pretty cool. It's, again, I think it's got a lot of functionality that is really dope. The idea of having this vital HUD down here kind of front and center where you can very easily see, you know, your health, your magicka, your stamina, which are easily the most important things you need to know at a moment's notice. Kind of off in the corner here, you have the, I don't know, frostfall widget, temperature widget. I think it's a cool structuring of what is essentially three separate elements, right? You have the temperature meter at the top, you have the exposure meter in the center, and then the very bottom you have the wetness meter. This part, and then of course beneath that you have carry weight and gold. I think this is a cool design. I think there's a couple issues. If we're talking about the temperature frostfall, we'll call it the frostfall badge. You have an issue with this. Oh my god, best adult dating site. It's like multiple accounts because I'm banning each one. Let's see. Hide user on this channel. Boom, baby. You have, if you guys can chat it away for me once more, I appreciate it. So an issue with this badge is that while it's kind of looks cool or whatever, no, I'm sure the best adult dating site, they don't even gotta advertise, right? Oh, can you ban a specific phrase? That would be perfect. I don't know how to do that, but maybe I can do it. Manage moderators, pop out chat, better TTV settings. Oh, it has Twitch TV? Manage moderators? Maybe it'll take me to a link. Let me see. Oh yeah, okay, filters. I've got users, specific channels, blocked words. Here we go. Oh, they're just no fucking. Okay, so the way that they're getting around that is by just spamming a bunch of emojis. Thank you guys very much for doing that, by the way. Shit. Blocked words. Would that also block channels that have those words in them? I don't think so. Well, either way, we'll just keep handling it as it comes, and then I'll try to figure it out. Thank you guys very much. Anyway, long story short, the Frostfall badge is somewhat problematic, I think, because they're like, let's say I'm a brand new user, right? I've never played modded Skyrim, or maybe I played Skyrim, but I've not played modded Skyrim. And I play Wildlander because, you know, it's hella accessible. It's pretty easy to download. That's the whole goal. You fire this up, and it's like, okay, I can probably figure out what the health, magic, stamina is at first glance. The, you know, left and right hands, that one's easy. This temper meter is probably a little confusing, but maybe you could figure it out. Probably not, though, to be honest, because currently these names for tempers are not in there. And then you have this thing over here, which is it's like, what the fuck is that, really, right? You really have no idea what any of that is. The carry weight and the gold underneath it, if you're looking for a context clue there, you're not going to get one, because the carry weight and the gold have nothing to do with the Frostfall meter, right? One cool thing is we have, like, you know, the needs icons will pop up if we... Let's see, set timescale to 20,000. We're going fast. There they are. So the icons will pop up, and they will increase in opacity as you become more hungry or thirsty or tired. We can watch that happen in real time, right? You can see there they go. They're getting brighter and brighter until they're, let's assume that's max, right? So that's pretty cool. It's, you know, a cool idea. It's another thing where, like, you can probably infer that one as a new player, but, you know, maybe not. You might be a little bit confused as to, like, how that functions. Anyway, so there's this somewhat of an issue with users seeing stuff and going kind of like, oh, like, what the fuck is that? Like, I don't know what that is. And it's not hugely problematic, because, like, eventually they will probably figure it out, but there's nothing in game diegetically that explains it for them. And if they're going to figure it out, either it's going to be from trial and error and playing, or they're going to go to the community and ask there, which is not ideal, right? There's you want your HUD elements to generally, if you can swing it, be discernible at a glance. I should know immediately what that is. Simple as that. So that's an issue. There's also this kind of general issue with, frankly, what you'd call immersion, for lack of a better term. You have all of these HUD elements are persistent. They're always there, if you know, kind of allow them to be. It's like the vital HUD, right? I think it's really cool that it's, you know, right there in the bottom center. But something that's in the bottom center is definitely going to kind of stick around in your periffs more than something that's even in the corners over here, right? And even something in the corners is still kind of like, it's there, you know what I mean? You feel it, even if you don't kind of realize that you do. So, yeah, Ashe. Perfect. I'm gonna call you Phoenix, because I'm not sure if that's pronouncing, or if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Could there not just be an icon for Frostfall like the needs? Yes, there absolutely could be. We're going to talk about that as well, kind of icons, because that was part of the thing. Let's see, by UI mods, lack of consistency, temper UI and main HUD is not the same when you're tempering the sword. Yeah, and there's definitely, I think the Skyrim UI actually does have a lot of cool things going for it. I was actually talking about this with our boy Connor yesterday. Let's just kind of take a little look-see here, right? Skyrim's UI is, it's pretty, the styling, I think, is actually its strongest component. There are functional issues like the lack of consistency that Carps just mentioned there. But generally speaking, the vanilla UI, accepting kind of the functional issues like it being designed for consoles first and foremost, and, the inventory being kind of, it's a cool, theory. It's just kind of annoying to navigate. But stylized, in terms of stylization, it's actually pretty strong. It's minimalistic, which I think is a cool approach. I like that very much. And yet there's still, there's accents, there's little components to it that kind of impart that same feeling that I described earlier with Nolvis or Sands of Time and whatever. It's clearly, I think, a cleaner design than that. It helped a lot by the fact that it's vector, and also just it's a strong design. It's subtle, but it's there. It's stylization, and clearly someone took the time, right, to kind of give it its own little look and feel. You can contrast this with something like what we are also definitely going to be using components of, because it's really, really cool, and I've talked about this in several streams now. Untarnished UI. So untarnished UI was a big inspiration for some of the UI stuff that I'm doing. We are very, very likely going to be including components of this in the UI design, right? This is a much more minimalistic design, which I think is really cool. I like it a lot. What it kind of doesn't have, if you look at this, we're looking at the same, screen that we were just looking at. This really, the closest thing to kind of stylization that you will see here is the meter at the bottom and the border, the divider that has this kind of nice gradient. I really like the border and the divider. There's a degree of stylization there, but it's very, very, very minimal. And for some people's tastes, it might not be enough even. It's pros and cons to all of these things. None is better or worse than the other, generally speaking. And you have, anyway, this, there's Skyrim. So that brings me to the final problem that I'm going to discuss. This is the world's longest preamble to the reveal of what I've been working on. All of that stuff said, I still think this design has, functionally, it's got a lot of strengths, and I really like, the improvements that it makes. There is this issue, right, where with all of these HUD elements, let's include the blur as well is a very good point. I forgot that these do not have that. Okay, no wonder. I thought that looked a little bit different. One of the quote-unquote issues with this entire HUD design is that if you look at everything here, and actually what I'm going to do, I have an idea. No. Here we go. No. Okay, we're going to move this over here. I'm going to click this, and that way when I do that. Okay, so, oh, wait. Shit, I thought you were going to be able to see my mouse over Skyrim. Guess not. Whatever. I don't have a good way to show my mouse. Whatever. We're just going to deal with it. All of these HUD elements that you see here are, by design, intentionally, what you would call an extension of that vanilla UI design, right? The health, magic, stamina bars are literally vanilla default. They have the kind of diamondy thing. It's like pseudo Nordic. I like it because it's not insanely Nordic, right? But it's that stylization element. Eye-equip's circles are similar, and they're very clearly designed to emulate the default Skyrim interface, right? The Frostfall HUD, the badge, and most UI mods, or most mods that have a UI component, we'll say, some sort of bar, they will hook into the vanilla HUD. They'll hook into Sky UI. They will basically take the existing elements that exist, in this. That was redundant. I apologize. They'll take the existing elements from the UI and reutilize them, right? And that's a good idea because what they're trying to do is emulate the vanilla style because they're assuming that, the user is going to be playing with the vanilla style because why wouldn't they be? Of course, much later you have Dear Diary and all these other kinds of UI mods where someone like Urine Reactor, the creator of Dear Diary, who's just a consummate legend, will go through and manually patch every single mod that uses something like this to match the design, the vibe, right? So the problem here is, is that all of these UI elements that you see, however cool or however much you like the design, to me, what it does is it still just screams Skyrim, right? I don't know if that's because I've been playing Skyrim for so long or what, but it's because it's vanilla Skyrim's design. All of these components are designed to emulate the vanilla style. Even in the bottom left, you have the Sky HUD alternate compass, right? Which was specifically designed with this little Nordic kind of badge, left and right? It's all supposed to be like that. And that's cool, but what I want, and you guys probably have picked up on this just from the overarching experience of Wildlander for me, it's still Skyrim for sure, but it's kind of its own thing, you know what I mean? And as we start to make even grander changes to the underlying systems, it's already a lot of changes with all the various mods. I would say that it's not a stretch to say that Wildlander plays pretty radically differently from Skyrim already. We're just going to go further in that direction, and because of that, to me, I think it's appropriate that we already have our own distinct visual style for everything outside of the game world, right? Our website, our launcher, just everything is this unified look and feel. And to me, it only feels right that we bring that sort of vibe and uniqueness and just, distinct design to the HUD. So I want to kind of I've been neglecting this like crazy. Thank you for the Prime sub, Carps, also Gravity Grazer, and I think I got Prince Wolfchild. Sweet. Long story short, I want our own vibe. I want our own specialized feeling for the HUD. I'd like to get away from it's just vanilla, right? It's Skyrim. So with all of that said, I've been fucking with the HUD a bunch. You guys have seen the sneak meter, right? Actually, it still should be in here. I really like this sneak meter a lot. I think it's cool. I like that it's an eyeball. The thing about this sneak meter is that it's still very much designed to kind of fit that vanilla style, and it was great practice, I think, in building out these different components. Also, fucking with Skyrim's HUD, I've said this a million times, fucking with the interface at all is really weird because you go and you set up an old version of Flash, Adobe Flash, which is not even available anymore, and you manage to completely replicate the compile environment that you need in order to directly edit the interface the proper way, which is a huge pain in the ass. And you also need to know ActionScript, which is weird. It's it's the coding language that Flash uses for its elements. Whatever, it's odd. What we do, oh my god, best adult dating site. What we do instead is we use a decompiler to look at the completed files and we edit them backwards, right? Which is really cool in a way. I think it's really rad. It's it's cool that we can do it. And in some ways it's actually easier, I think, than doing it the front way, at least for someone who doesn't, work in Flash. There's also a lot of limitations, and there's things that are difficult to do with that. And anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what I've been doing now... that's what it was. The sneak meter was a really good... It was a fun design project, and it was a good way to really kind of start to understand the decompiler for the Flash files so that I can, do more stuff with it. I'm able to do a lot more now than I have been previously. And yeah, so now kind of sky's the limit somewhat. It's maybe a bit hyperbole, but we can do a lot of stuff with the HUD. And with that said, I can show you guys here. Let's look. Apparently this is my showmanship style today. Why don't we walk through the evolution of these redesigns, right? Because I've been working on it a lot. I'm going to go to, actually, you know what I'm going to open? That's fine. Let's do Photoshop. That's cool. What are my thoughts on 3 tweaks and F tweaks? So I think 3 tweaks and F tweaks are super fucking cool. There are things that they do that I would probably be interested in integrating. It just kind of like balance changes. On the whole, they are built for Requiem veterans, right? That is not the same target audience as Wildlander. That doesn't mean, again, that there aren't components of those mods that still could be like that are just good balance changes in general. So like there's a distinct possibility that in the future we might add, you know, 3 tweaks or F tweaks or whatever. I think it's what's the most kind of like advanced, or not advanced, but like the most recent kind of like integration of all the tweaks mods. I can't remember which one it is. It might be F tweaks. I think it's Forns, and that would be F tweaks. Yeah, and like stuff like that. Like there's so many, and like so Fornication, for those of you who don't know, is a fellow list author and modder. Forn's work is incredible. Forn is awesome. So yeah, there's so many things like that would just be like easy additions, and we can totally add that kind of stuff in. Something that we would not really be adding, because I'm working on kind of our own version of it, is like, for example, 2.0 is going to be the skill system overhaul, right? Where I'm building my own kind of skill system, and that's going to kind of change the way that you progress and the way that the balance works. This is exactly kind of what it was a Noob in Disguise's system. I can't remember if that was 3 tweaks to start with. Whichever one of the tweaks mods for Requiem added in the Potions of Insight system, which I think is brilliant, right? It's very similar to like Enderal, where instead of leveling kind of the vanilla way, which is a little bit video gamey, you have, you know, it's all about kind of hard, and this is how Wildlander currently works. You harvest perk points primarily. Like perk points in Requiem are like the fucking thing to have. So you're just kind of, if you're metagaming, you're encouraged to metagame because you need perk points, and so your characters end up, you know, fucking with skills that the character themselves like kind of shouldn't care about, and you're doing that precisely to get perk points to put into the skills that you do care about. That's like a nightmare system in terms of immersion. So I think 3 tweet, whichever one a Noob in Disguise made, I'm pretty sure is the first one, came up with this Potion of Insight system where instead of leveling or getting perk points that way, you get perk points by like finding them out in the game world, right? You go to the end of a dungeon and then there's a perk potion there, essentially. That's really rad. It's, I think, it's a great way to fix that issue for an experience that is built around being an action adventure kind of roleplay simulator. Thank you very much for the Prime sub, Eliglin. Requiem is called the role-playing overhaul, and it definitely does a lot of stuff for role-playing. I would say it's a role-playing overhaul in the sense that it kind of like adds to a lot of realism. It's not to say there aren't unrealistic elements of Requiem, but it creates like immersion through like a pseudo-realism balance, right? At least from the outside looking in. All of that said, Requiem is still what I would call, because Skyrim is still what I would call it's an action RPG. What you were supposed to spend most of your time doing is questing, dungeoning, adventuring, right? That's what it's for. And for that kind of game, a Potions of Insight system is perfect. For what Wildlander is trying to be, which is more of this like life sim, yeah, you can fight things, and yeah, there's adventuring, and it's still probably always going to be the primary one, like the primary thing you can spend your time doing, but you're not just an adventurer in Wildlander. You can be many different things, right? You can, you know, I mean, you guys know the deal. You know how we what's it called? All the different, and like the life skills that come in. It's a life sim. It's like a immersion simulator. For an experience like that, a potions of insight system for leveling your skills really is not the ideal approach, because you don't want leveling skills to be gated behind having to go to like these dangerous dungeons and whatever. Like, it's just not something that makes sense in that world, despite it being an excellent system and an excellent solution, in my opinion, to the issues that you would experience in Requiem otherwise. Let's see. Prefer the experience mod. Yeah, experience mod, also very cool. What I'm gonna be doing, and I've talked about it in other streams, so I won't bother to rehash it here. What I'm doing is closer to that. Let's see. I don't really get to use this skill to level and use the perk point for something else. Yes. I agree. So, okay, check this out, y'all. So here was version 1.0, right? So this is, ignore kind of these components. Also, I grabbed this screenshot from like a random user on the Discord. I can't remember who it was, but whoever it was, thank you. We're in Photoshop. This is raster. We're pixels here. I'm more comfortable in Photoshop than I am in Illustrator, but eventually, I got to move over to Illustrator because these are, at the end of the day, going to be vector files that I put into the game. So, we've gotten there now. Anyway, this was the version 1.0 concept, right? Which I really like a lot. You can see that we're kind of leaning into now a degree of stylization that is a bit more unique, a bit more, bespoke for us. Thanks for hanging out, Phoenix. I like this design a lot still. I think it's pretty cool. I like, just little things like the curvature of the bars and, this is very much inspired by untarnished UI, which, like, okay, we were talking about this a little bit about how, like, specifically what we looked at is, no, I guess it's here. Let's go, untarnished. The screens that we looked at have fewer what you call stylized elements, but you want to see where this is really stylized, or like in a way that I think is excellent, is the compass, first of all. And primarily, look at those HUD bars. That's some beautiful shit. Here's some stylization. Again, it's a minimalistic style, but it's still stylization. You have this kind of, it's a slightly transparent frame, but it is like a unique frame. It's like this kind of white gray. You have this very solid color bars that are a gradient from, I guess that's almost the opposite of a solid color, but I mean it as contrast to, like, Skyrim's bars have this like sheen on them. We're all familiar with that, right? If not, let's go ahead and Skyrim health bar. I already removed this, so like this business. So Skyrim's bars have this kind of like, it's like a little, it's supposed to almost feel like a tube, which is cool, but not kind of my speed. So this does not have that. It has this, really beautiful minimalistic like stylization of its bars. So this was strongly inspired by that version 1.0, right? I just wanted to make a couple. Yeah, I needed to build it out myself anyway because of how it works in the back end. So I kind of built this, right? And you have these, just like the center thingy, and then all this stuff, just assume it would be gone. The compass is very likely going to be like top center. It very well might be this compass from Untarnished UI. I haven't decided on that yet, but it's probably the likelier solution. Date, I don't know. Maybe it'll be up there. And all this stuff is kind of getting yeeted in favor. In fact, you know what? Let's do this. Check it out. We're going to, in real time, we're going to take the healing brush tool. Actually, no, spot healing. This might not work, actually, the spot healing. Layer 1. Bigger. Let's see what happens if we do this. There we go. Yeah, we're gonna start getting some. There we are. Get out of here, silly HUD. Gonzo, repeating tiling, but let's pretend it's like that. You two, get the fuck out of here. Done. Empty. Cool. Here's like this other component, right? I was fucking around with these needs bars because what I'm going to be kind of leaning into heavily here is this almost like Sims-like, needs, right? For reference, and these colors were not like final or anything, but I thought I had fun with them. There's actually, I'll show you guys the secret to my coloring here. Hold on. You make new balances to the price of the crafted, and just FYI, this is not what we're going to be going with, but I'll show you what I mean. Some potions are useless regarding leveling alchemy. Yeah, it's suffice to say alchemy is getting like a total rebalance. Precision is not coming in the next update, but it is definitely coming. Also, it's possible, Jordan, that compass navigation overhaul will be added. I gotta kind of fuck with that. So here's like your needs in the version 1.0, like your needs bars. The idea here was that you have hunger, thirst, and energy, like fatigue, whatever it's called. And then you have... oh my god, this is morale. That's like not a system that's been introduced yet, but that's what would be there. You have warmth or temperature, whatever, and then you have a hygiene, right? So ipso facto, here's your 6 needs, and for a sneak preview into how that's likely going to work, at least the current running system, is that these are, I wanted to represent them as bars. So I'll kind of talk about my logic here. All of these things you could represent through the opacity icons or icons that change color. This is what we currently do. These are not kind of like in there. This one isn't even in there in terms of a game system. Warmth and hygiene, excuse me, are in there, but they are, they're don't have icon representations. They're kind of just in the background. Or like the warmth has the whole Frostfall badge, right? These ones have icon representations. They just show up when they start to get bad, and there you go. No problem. So you could represent all of these pretty easily with an icon, right? Project Zomboid does something like this, where instead of kind of Sims style bars, which is what you have more of here, you have, in fact, here, I'll give you a visual example. Let's go Project Zomboid Moodles. Is that what they're called? Yeah. Moodles. I got like an image here. No? Images. Here we go. Give me like a UI. Yeah, okay, here we go. Moodlet. That's what that's what I call them. Like, apparently they're called Moodles. So we're going to take this and put it over here. So in Project Zomboid, oh cool, more spam. Man, it's just relentless. I know that everyone's kind of mad at Twitch right now and that more and more people are shifting over to YouTube, which is great. Or like, whatever. It sounds good to me. I have no skin in that game. But YouTube, you better get on your fucking chat, baby. On your spam. Narked off? What does that mean? So here's Project Zomboid's style of doing needs, right? You have what they call, I guess, Moodles. I call them Moodlets. They're actually, I really like this design a lot. You have these icons that pop up, both if you are like in a particularly good like state for one of their things that they cover, right? So like, for example, you can, like, if you're like heavily entertained, I think is one of them, right? Or like you're in a really good mood, you'll get a green moodlet where like the background is like deep green, and when you hover over it, it says like, you're really entertained, and then it gives you like a little description here of, kind of what that might mean or how it might impact you. And then as that fades, it becomes like a lighter green. It gets a different descriptor and name. And then if you're like neutral, kind of center of the road on something, it becomes red, right? So like right here, you have someone who's like a little bit tired. It's like a kind of a pink in the background. It's not super intense yet. If you hover over that, you're like, yeah, you're getting a little sleepy. That will eventually progress into like, this is, medium red, which is like, oh, you're very, very sleepy. And then eventually it'll progress to like deep red, and it's like, hey, you're about to collapse from being so tired. You've never been more tired in your whole life. The style of it is a bit like, you can see visually cartoony, which is fun. I think it fits Zomboid's kind of theming a little bit. Not really something that I'm going for, but it works like for them, right? I like a system like this, but there's one issue that we have with this. I actually came up with a version here of this design that used icons. I think I still have them. Do I? Yeah, okay, here we go. I'm going to turn on... So you can see an issue here. So the idea of these bars was going to be that you hit a button and they essentially appear, right? Like it was going to be underneath these bars. I mean, functionally, who cares? For your guys' purposes, you would just be like, oh, I hit the button to show the needs. Boom, this is what I see now. So I tried this. The issue here being, of course, like if you just see these colors, it's like, what the fuck does any of that mean? They're fun, I guess. You know, the colors are cool. Also, here, I'm going to show off a little bit here. You have, this is your CMYK kind of color scheme, right? It's like they're both the color triads of like the primary 6 colors. So you have red-ish is kind of offset with like an off blue and an off yellow. And then you have green, orange, and purple are the other color triad. And also, they're complementary colors on each side of each other. So red is complementary with green, blue is complementary with orange, and yellow is complementary with purple. Thank you very much. I love color theory and all that kind of stuff. All that said, I think when you look at this, to be honest, I was like, okay, I kind of intend for Wildlander to be this like, you know, semi-serious, very immersive, like hardcore world. And what I'm looking at here is a little bit Fisher Price is kind of how I ended up feeling about it. It's fine. It's definitely something we could do, but like I was like, okay, let's assume that we don't have these icons, right? Let's remove this. Looking at these colors, it's like I have no idea what the fuck that is. I need something here that's got to tell me what these are. You can add these icons in, which is kind of, oh, that one I tried having the little, you know, little dividers. The icons are okay. Oh, the colors do match the needs, just to be clear. So you got this one's, you know, food, this one's water, this one's energy, fatigue, this one's morale, this one's warmth, and this one is hygiene. So you have the icons, they work okay. The thing is, here's the kicker. Project Zomboid is a game where you control the game isometrically. You do have direct control of the movement keys, but you have a mouse pointer in the interface for Project Zomboid. Like these things pop up in the corner. Some of them are pretty obvious, like the fork and knife. You're like, oh, that one's probably hunger. This one, great icon design. This one probably means I've broken a bone, right? Yes, what Finn said is true. It doesn't really match the style of either Skyrim or Wildlander, frankly. And also, we do not have a mouse finger. We don't have a cursor that we can pop up and let the player hover over these moodlets to say, oh, I know what that is now because I can hover over it and get additional information. We can't do that. So what we have instead is this like Photoshop design where we have these icons and like, you know, some of them are like kind of obvious. I mean, it's kind of tiny too. It's like, what is that? Like we already have issues with people who complain that like some parts of the UI are too small. That's something I hope to fix with this new design for like accessibility. So if you can even make out these icons, like that's one thing. And of course we can move them, put them somewhere else, make them bigger. That might help. But same thing, like some of these concepts for a new player are a little abstract. Food, water, and tired sleep are like the easiest ones. I guess that's water. Because I wanted to use a droplet for hygiene. But over here, you know, warmth, that one's probably the easiest. But like a happy face for morale and like a droplet for hygiene are not amazing in terms of readability. It's kind of even like the morale, like the happy one. It's like, okay, like that could be so many different things. And with this, the droplet, like I was thinking, we tried like a bathtub. I was like, okay, maybe a bathtub would communicate it, but it's like hard. It's too tiny to make it out, or like, I don't know. There's all these kind of problems, right? Oh, yes. Okay, so this is the other problem, like coloring. So like hunger, I thought maybe like this magenta was hunger because it's like, you know, I don't know. I agree with you. I think orange is better for hunger, but then it's like, what do I make warmth or like whatever. So it's a difficult kind of thingy. Campfires we needed more often. Oh yeah, we can do that too. Dank. See, icons could say when you hit tab, for example, they could then translate the text or more information, like the Zomboard. So you could do that. It's just like when they're there, I should, like, the player's gonna have to kind of figure that out. You know what I mean? They're gonna hit tab, and then that's actually a pretty cool idea. I like that a lot. I had not thought about using the tween menu, but there's a problem too, is that not everyone, the tab menu is this one, for those of you guys who are not familiar. This is what's called the tween menu, right? Where you can go to skills, magic, map, items. I use the tween menu primarily. Not everyone does, because there are also, you can hit I for inventory. I do that a lot. I never hit P for skills or whatever, or O for magic, but you can, and some people do. So unless I put them like on every screen, I could do that, I guess, but it's not exactly what you'd call clean, right? And it's like, all right, is there a better way to do this? And that's the question. Yes, also the colors are too bright for Skyrim's aesthetic. I would agree with that completely. And yada, yada, yada. So this was kind of version 1, and it's like, you know, we're getting there. It's got some cool ideas. What I would probably do, if we were going to do this, is do something like what I do here with the controls, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm going to hit a button, and I'm going to display some sort of like little explainer, almost like the same way we do down here with the standard follower, horse, whatever. I can like have these explainers and, you know, make them the same color as whatever the bar is. Honestly, some version of that might be the, if we decide to go with these colors at all, we might see something like that. Honestly, I like the idea of just like the colors choice. Yes. So here's an issue. Again, it's a little bit, I made these kind of like a lighter color because, you know, again, I was just kind of experimenting with them. And because I wanted to use different colors than the, you know, the vanilla bars, which are this nice, and I even kind of like adjusted these ones, but generally speaking, you get this nice kind of like deeper red, blue, green. That's what the vanilla UI uses. And it does kind of sell this like brutal world kind of vibe. And when you throw these needs in there, again, now I'm playing a Fisher Price game, right? Or like it's like a baby's first drop the shapes into like the bucket in the right spot or whatever. And again, these icons kind of push us further down that road, right? So that was version 1.0 or version 1.0 through, you know, 1.1, 2, 3, 4 or whatever. Then we got serious, right? One thing that I've actually kind of wanted to get away from, and this might be controversial, is these circles. The reason that I use the circles is because they're an iEquip default option, and iEquip has this very cool, in my opinion, very cool, like radial meter, right? For things like torches and such. Let's see if I have one. I do. So you can see my torch gets this cool radial meter, right? So I thought that was like, all right, that's fucking slick. We're going to use this circle. That's fine. Circles are okay. I generally don't like circles that much from a design and HUD perspective because they're kind of tough to work with. They don't line up with other elements super well. This is okay. The sharpness of these components kind of helps sell the, you know, we're still in brutal survival land. But on the whole, circles, round edges, stylistically don't feel brutal. They don't feel intense. They feel baby and like soft and, you know, not weak, like safe. That's the word I'm looking for. Yes, and then the radial menu also works for enchanting. So now let's get into version 2.0, which is over here. Now we're in the big boy Illustrator. We're not working with raster anymore. We're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. Let's go ahead and let me get version 2.0. Hold on a second. Boom. So, may I introduce 2.0, which is like this. 2.0, I was like, okay, I made a meme for the team. Let me find it because it makes me giggle. Hold on. Where is it? Here we go. friendship ended with circles. Now boxes is my best friend, right? Also, I have nowhere music. I'm sorry, I just realized. Portrait of Ruin. Let's go. Friendship ended with circles. Now boxes is my best friend. I like the squares. I think that they're much more effective at selling this kind of like brutality vibe. I know that sounds silly perhaps, but like I do think it's true. Let's go ahead and make this full screen. You get this. Yes, they absolutely utilize space better. You can align them. You can stack them next to each other. It's pretty fucking cool if you ask me, right? I like this square design quite a lot. Just a spoiler for you guys, there is a 3.0 that I'm gonna show you after this. But I like this a lot. I can do some fun stuff with, you know, like the enchantment meter is what that's supposed to represent in the back there behind the, you know, sword. I would say that even versus the 3.0, this squares style and this design is certainly the most readable. It's very easy to see what each element is, and also just FYI, the idea was for the text here to like fade out, you know, when you're not using, or like when you've switched to a new thing. So let's go ahead and let's simulate that. All right, Castlevania, go off. So here you go, no text. This is what your you know, box design looks like, and I think it's pretty fucking rad. And of course, it's very important in all this that you can still hit a button and like hide all of it, right? If it's gonna be there. It's pretty solid, but I think here's like the kind of criticism of this design. I think there's two primary bits, right? Oh, you guys can't see when I do the full screen preview? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Expand panels. No, here. We're gonna move those in here. Well, okay, then I'll just do it this way then. Let's have them there. Yeah, so old school hardcore game vibes is definitely the through line for this one. And specifically, I was inspired by Morrowind, right? Because like if you guys remember the Morrowind HUD, it looks like this. It is very, I mean, this is, you know, like the widescreen kind of like updated, modded Morrowind thingy. Let me see. Okay, cool. We're gonna bring this over here. So here's Morrowind's HUD, right? Simple. You got squares. I mean, this one's like they're out of the way, right? Which is cool. You got your pretty simple health bars here, and ipso facto, bing bong boom. I think very effective. It's readable. They're squares, so you can kind of put them wherever you want, kind of like grid style. And like Morrowind's HUD, like the inventory HUD was it was like the everything HUD. It had your spells, it had your inventory, whatever. It's a little wonky, but like it's still effective for some of this stuff. I think this design did a good job of kind of replicating that feel, right? And I have different kind of like reference images here. The other important bit here is that you have it's readable in different circumstances, right? So probably want to change the color of that background, this thing. In fact, here, you can do that. Let's make it I mean, I'm probably not going to go with this concept, but we'll just adjust it for fun. So you can see that all of these elements, and you have these kind of customized, you know, active effects HUD over here. All of it is a lot more readable than, you know, probably the other design. It's stark and it's cool, and I like it a lot. However, you have the issue of immersion, right? Thank you guys very much. I'm glad you like this. I had a lot of fun putting this design together. I've been having fun in general. That's why, you know, it's like thank you to the team for letting me fuck around with this stuff, because it is very fun for me. The issue with this design, one, is that it's very present. Yes, you can, I said this before about the current design that we have, yes, you can hit a button to hide all of it, and that's cool, that's like definitely a step up, but this, when you're playing the game, I wish I could like further, maybe I can do this. You guys, yeah, okay, that helps. We're gonna, here. That's better. It's very, I can't quite get the, oh wait, here, actually I can use the zoom. There we go, granular zoom. That's about full screen. These are very present, right? These designs, And you probably could kind of like fade them in and out, but I mean, you could. It still has that ability. But yeah, so boxes, you've got these kind of opaque windows like behind the icons, right? So it's still very like bing bang boom in your face. Pachow. This is also like the sneak meter design. I'll talk a little bit more about that like in a second. But I like this design. It has that kind of, it's probably a little bit tough to kind of auto hide the elements, like this contextual HUD that I would like to do. And I would say, in terms of stylization, it's not super strong. Or if it has this, if it has any sort of stylization, to be honest with you, it's still a little bit vanilla Skyrim. Like these kinds of frames, right? Oh, that one's not there. It should be here. I can layers, frames. These are all kind of like separated. Actually, this is where here. Frames should be. Is it not there? Oh no, backing. Sorry. There we go. So it's a little bit vanilla Skyrim still, right? This is still very vanilla Skyrim style interface. You have this kind of like border. It's reminiscent of it to me. If anything, it either lacks stylization or it's, again, reminiscent of what we're already kind of working with, right? So it's pretty cool, but maybe we can go deeper. Maybe we can push it even further. Someone said, oh, I like the opaque background, maybe not the stroke. Interesting idea. That's kind of what Untarnished UI does, right? It kind of removes strokes from most things, not all things. We can see what that looks like really fast because of how I built this. Let's just go... right? Get rid of the frames. The opaque background is a little bit too big there. You would want to adjust them a little bit. But you can kind of get the idea. You know, not bad. We're getting somewhere. It's pretty interesting. Let's just pretend these opaque backgrounds are a little bit less chonky. Alright, like, something's happening here. We're starting to get a little bit more unique, right? A little bit further away from vanilla Skyrim. And that brings me to what I'm hoping you guys will enjoy, which is kind of where I'm currently at. I was showing this design to some of the other list authors. We were just chatting over on the Wabbajack server. My boy Total, who many of you guys might know from the Total Skyrim Overhaul Modlist, was like, Total's very famously a not a HUD guy. He's a, you know, likes immersion, minimalism. I get it. So he was like, what if you had even less HUD? And I was like, you might be onto something. So, I'm gonna, hold on, let's bring up, I like this image too. No, not size reference. This one's good. This one, hold on, which one? This one, I like this one a lot. Because it's dark and we'll be able to show it off. So, let's go ahead and take a look. I'm gonna undo, actually, all this stuff. We're gonna make these, there we go. And then now, we're going to show this image, collapse this, turn it off. Now here's 3.0. Here's what I think is the best one thus far. You guys can tell me what you think. This version is even more minimalist, you might say, even more immersion focused. There's no opaque backgrounds. There's no backings really. You have this really, in my opinion, really fucking cool, way more stylized approach, because I made these, like, I was inspired here by what's it called, Nordic UI, by the way, who went through, in fact, here I can show this off. Nordic UI, which is, I would say, what the big UI mods in the scene, right? You got Dear Diary, you got Nordic UI, which I believe makes use of like Sovngarde font. These are incredible, incredible works. Nordic UI is, it leans even harder into the kind of like Nordic style, right? Which is super cool. It makes it, because it fits. It's Skyrim. It's a fucking Nordic ass game, right? Yeah, we'll get to that, Hector Stone. The contrast test. It's very important. Tyler and I were talking about this. What if I just like fat suck up all this coffee right now? So, Nordic UI. Let's bring this on over. I probably have like 4,000. Oh, actually not that many. Tabs. Also, I think our music stopped. Video pause. Yeah, continue watching. So, Nordic UI, incredible, lovely, consistent. You can see that Nordic UI does this really cool, in my opinion, really cool. I need health bars. Where's the new shout meter? Oh, weird. It's kind of, well, maybe they're shown off like in one of these screenshots. Okay, yeah, perfect. Open. We're gonna zoom in. No. Open a new tab. Then we can zoom in. There we go. Oh yeah. Look at this. I'm gonna zoom in even further. Enhance. So you can see, and I was like, okay, this is fucking brilliant. You have I like the color, and I like this splotchy kind of, it's subtle, and you almost wouldn't even notice it, but it's got this, you know, kind of like smudgy bit like along it, and there's several different layers of colors. I think 3, if I'm looking correctly, not counting the kind of like back thingy. And when you zoom out, you know, let's go kind of, this is roughly full screen. You can see it, but it's subtle, right? It's like kind of cool. To me, it has this vibe of like it's like health, right? It's like my vital kind of like bit. It introduces a little bit of stylization. Now, my kind of version of that I made is, I have that same kind of thing going here, but I like, you know, brushed it out to the sides more, so it's a little bit more kind of like consistent, right? And then what you have here is like no backing. You have all of these elements are what you would call free floating, right? And the reason for that is, one, because I think it looks really fucking cool. And the other reason is that it makes it really easy to hide them contextually. You don't have to worry about like different frames and like the opacity of like background elements and all that kind of stuff. It's just, you know, it's as if each one is kind of free floating in its own space, and so you can just kind of bleep bloop contextualize them out whenever you want, right? Am I considering putting, what's up, Leap Day? I am not considering putting Nordic UI into the pack. I am talking about our kind of like UI design, the one that I've been working on, which is, you can see it's inspired by many of these different things, right? So I have this HUD. Not featured here are like, I haven't done anything with the moods yet. I'm still kind of figuring out what I will do, but they'll probably be bars. Oh, and I started to say this. Infinitely distractible. So I was talking about how the mood bars, you can represent these moods with like icons, right? So we have the issue of not being able to read them, so that's a problem. Also, the reason why I want to do bars is because mechanically, the way that I'm likely going to integrate, and like, you know, some of the needs stuff already exists, other ones haven't been implemented yet, like the morale. What I'm planning to do is have each need have its own kind of like scalable, you know, bonuses and malices depending on exactly how far along you are like in that need. So, you know, if you're maxed out in hunger and maxed out in thirst, you're gonna get, you know, some little kind of cool things as a result that's like specific to hunger and thirst. So just arbitrarily we'll say hunger maybe helps your health regen just a little bit, or thirst does the same thing for magicka, we'll say. I'm just completely making those up off the top of my head. I'm not saying that's what it's going to be, but something like, and then of course conversely, as the bar gets lower and lower, you'll start to see the malices appear in proportionate degrees. So for that, I thought that bars really are more appropriate, and the reason for that is that there is a functional difference between like full and like a little bit down, and then like a little bit further down, and like a little bit further down. Each one of those is a difference in terms of you know, mechanical impact, and I think bars are really good for representing that, right? So probably still going to be bars. New UI need to have the possibility to hide the stealth meter. Someone like me play with no stealth meter for immersion. Sure, I mean you can if you like, or like there's always going to be the option to like hide the entire HUD. I can also, with what I've learned, now I don't know how exactly I'm going to set this up, but I can literally hide and show individual UI elements based on a key press. So in theory, even with this contextualized kind of idea where, you know, everything you see here is going to appear and disappear based on context, which I like a lot, and I would like to move back to that system. And probably I'll have a button to just like show all for like a hot second, and then they'll all fade away again. in addition to that, if I wanted to, I can make individual key presses like show or hide specific elements. Like that's something I'm capable of doing now. So maybe, you know, maybe we'll just make it super modular. But anyway, here's your kind of basic design. I think this one's probably the best one. It's very, yeah, you could do it in the MCM, Lizzie, for sure, if we wanted to. Just add like little thingies that people can define. Yeah, that's a better idea, honestly, instead of taking up precious keys for it. Or like one key to hide everything, perhaps. Anyway, here's the, before I go too much further, well, let's check. Okay, so the other thing you got to check here is how it shows up in different environments, right? This one, yeah, it's like the middle of the night in Whiterun. Of course it's going to show up here. It's dark. It's easy. Let's go bright white snow. Now you can see that these bars, I really worked hard on them. They have several layers. If you zoom in really far, you can see there's like one here that's kind of like your topmost, and then you got this slightly less, and then slightly less, and then finally the backing, which, you know, is the darkest one. The reason I bothered to do that is because that ensures, you know, better readability on like a brighter environment like this. And Skyrim is a challenge to design for because it ranges from like, you know, you can be in total darkness, best adult dating site. You also can be in bright white snow, right? Hold on, sorry, I gotta get rid of the spam. Someone said that YouTube has consistently ignored spam issues. Is that true? Well, they might bother to fix it now that people are moving over. There's definitely not a singular person, I think, messaging those. Y'all, it's definitely just a bot. But yeah, so these obviously still show up super fine. The problem is these, right? These icons. They're going to be a bit tougher to show on like a bright white background like this. So I'm still trying to come up with a solution for that. I think the biggest or the most likely one is going to be like, I'm maybe going to edit the icons themselves so they have, you know, like a slight kind of basically this, but for each icon, so they have like a little bit of contrast to like help them stand out. And I think that's gonna work. Yeah, like a small gray outline. That's super doable. It's just a pain in the ass. But what is game dev if not a pain in the ass, right? That's just what it's got to be. I was joking with Lizzie and the team earlier. It's like we've all done things far more tedious than that. So like whatever. And that's the basic kind of principle for those. And then the last thing I can kind of show you guys here is I tried to, you know, I was like messing around with the current sneak meter, right? Which is here. Well, that's the framed one, which looks a little strange. So the sneak wheel, no. Wait, what? Did I mix these up? Hold on just a moment. No. This is a jam. Oh, I guess this one also has the frames. That's actually kind of hard for me to hide. Well, just imagine that this sneak wheel doesn't have this frame, right? And that's more or less the design that we currently have. But I was kind of like, it just seems like I like the circle and I like the idea of, you know, the eye, but I was like, the circles, one, don't really fit this kind of bar-based UI so much anymore. And two, like, it's kind of an inefficient use of space, is it not? Like, it, you know, it's visible, which is what it's supposed to be. You need to be able to see the sneak meter. It's why it's part of the vital HUD. You need to know the moment. Again, we've talked about the sneak meter design, how it's very important to, like, you know, be able to see when you are detected versus not. But it got me thinking, like, all right, what's a different maybe style of design that we can do? Also, yes, animations is a very interesting idea. You, in theory, could have, you could do animations for some stuff. I'm trying to think of exactly how I would do it. But, like, what if a Fortify Health enchantment, right? Like, someone said this, I think, already. Let me see. Yeah, bars having visual effects on them, something's affecting them, Fortify Health. That would be super cool. Who knows? Maybe in the future, like, you have, like, a little, like, something like that. But as of right now, I was just going to have, like, you know, active effects over here. And I think that's, like, a good spot for them. And then they match, like, everything else. They match these icons. Yeah, pulsating color would be cool, too. These are things that, in theory, would be possible. Because there's, like, a little animation here for the Fortify HUD, but I would need to kind of look into it, and probably it would be so much work that I would need to push it off to like a later version, but you never know. I mean, that could be fun. Either way, here's this sneak concept that I was playing with, right? The way this works is that you have essentially, how do the active effects stack? Sometimes I have 10 of them. As in, you mean like how would they continue to show up? Because my thinking was that they would just kind of keep going, and then when you have enough of them, you get a second row, right? Basically the way that they work now, but you get more of them per row. And this size is not like guaranteed, but these sizes I think are pretty solid overall. So the sneak meter that I kind of came up with, this is the Egyptian level. I'm gonna put on Order of Ecclesia because I've been feeling it lately. Hold on, Castlevania, Order of Ecclesia OST playlist. And we're gonna do, view full playlist. Empty Tome, no. Rhapsody of the Forsaken first, because it's the best. Turn this down just to, or you guys can, Cat Jam. So the way the sneak meter works, at least this design, and none of this is like guaranteed, right? But you can see I feel like we're refining it further and further with each step. And I do like this sneak meter design, maybe you guys will too. So there's important components to this. Different colors, which we've talked about. There's the visual discernibility, very important. I guess the colors are kind of a part of that, I guess, like a sub-feature. And then, yeah, I guess you could honestly summarize all of it as like colors and like visual discernibility. I'll show you what I mean. So here's the sneak meter design, right? We're gonna go back to like a more neutral one because this is hard to look at, right? So let's, even this one, that's fine. So we're gonna turn off, let's just say that you were sneaking only, right? And all the rest of these icons and things were, this is actually a unique background for this. This is probably one where it's maybe even the hardest to see, at least the default, but hey, that's probably as difficult as this is gonna be, and you can still see it, so that counts for something. This is a sneak, well actually here, let's do it on one that's easier. We're gonna cheat and just make it, let's do this one. So you're sneaking right now, right? This purple indicator is basically your clue that you are hidden. So now with this design, you'll see in a second, there are 3 separate colors for the 3 different alert states that we have with sneaking. This is not something we had before. I think this is a functional improvement. When you see purple, you are hidden. You are sneaking. That is what it looks like. This is the only little indicator. The idea being here that it's like pretty immersive, right? Like it's only just a little tiny thing. So it's designed to still be able to be there. And maybe if you want to, you can like, maybe we'll crank down the opacity of it just like a teensy bit, right? 60 even, that's probably too much. And then on something like this, it might not show up super well. It still kind of does, but it blends in a lot better. But so let's say that that's sneaking, okay? Also, let me make sure, hold on a second. I'm gonna go, just so I have both of my chats open. Also, I love this fucking song. Image shows keybinds, have an image explains. Yes, absolutely, Hector Stone. So all this stuff, you would have like an explainer. Because you can see what this design kind of lacks is the, at least for something like the sneak meter here, or like whatever, you might not know at a glance what it is. The reason why I still opted to try for this design with sneak meters is because you actually, in order to show the sneak meter, you have to hit a button. You have to literally sneak, and like it will appear then. So there's a functional like, oh, that's the sneak meter, right? Like I hit the sneak button, this thing popped up. It's related to the sneak meter. Here's the caution state, right? So when you have started to be seen by someone, we're all familiar with stealth in Skyrim. This one I'm completely hidden. Oops, an enemy has started to see me. I'm in the caution state. This is what is analogous to like when the eye kind of starts to open, right, in regular Skyrim design. This is the in fact here, let me just turn this off. Let's make this a little bit narrower so I can kind of demonstrate the idea here. Here. Whoopsie. Is it would not having anything be more immersive? So there's I'm assuming this is what you're talking about. There is a subset of people who prefer not to play with any sneak meter at all because they don't want to kind of like gamify, or they don't want to know exactly when they are seen or whatever, right? I can understand that. And then, you know, for those people, we can provide an option to just have the sneak meter off all the time. It's, to me, you kind of have to make certain, like, the way that awareness works in Skyrim is not how it works in real life. And that's why I feel like the sneak meter is an okay compromise. What I mean by that is that in real life, when someone, like a singular person, becomes aware of your presence and they know where you are, which is analogous to the alert state in Skyrim when they've, you know, the eye has filled 100% of the way, all of their friends don't suddenly immediately know where you are. That is the case in Skyrim, and there's really nothing someone can do about that. That's kind of a problem. That's why you, in my opinion, really kind of, what justifies the sneak meter is, like, in Requiem, we'll say, let's say that I am a stealthy character and I'm sneaking through the middle of a camp, right? And then, oops, I accidentally stumble upon one guy who's like, oh shit, there he is. In Requiem and in Skyrim, what's going to happen now? It's invasion of the body snatchers. The rest of the bandits are a hive mind who will then go, oop, there he is, and they can all fucking launch a fireball at me simultaneously from 6 different directions because their AI does not differentiate individual awareness. They all know as long as they are close enough. So that to me is kind of, it doesn't work the way that real life works, right? So that's what kind of justifies the sneak meter. I kind of want to know the second that I'm seen so that I can adjust accordingly with my gameplay. Not everyone agrees. Some people don't mind that kind of system and not having the sneak meter anyway. So, you know, whatever's the most fun for you, go nuts. So we can make a toggle for it, no sweat. But for the people who like the sneak meter, this idea, this kind of maneuver here, is that it will turn from purple to white when you're in the caution state, right? There are stealth AI mods out there, but not something, you're talking about an extremely low level, like way, there might be, I mean, most of the time there's ways to change anything, especially if you're an SKSE dev. If you know how to use C++ to hook into the engine and to like make SKSE plugins, it would theoretically be possible, I think, for someone to adjust this stealth system. Yes, that's honestly a great, like, simple solution. Would just be like a timed response. Maybe you can't completely get rid of like the hive mind AI processing, but you could probably at least delay the hive mind alert state. Oh my god, no wonder I'm so thirsty. I don't have my water bottle. I'm gonna have to grab that in a second. I've been talking a lot. But yeah, so just as it is now, this, like, you know, we'll just assume that the hive mind's gonna continue. The way that this works, the second you're in the caution state, it will turn from purple to white. So now, immediately, you've got a strong color orientation to the fact that, oops, I'm in caution. And Skyrim tries to deal with this by having, not animals, they won't usually do this, sometimes they do, but the people, at the very least, when they enter the caution state, they will say something. So that's what's supposed to be kind of the justification that you as a character know that you are now in caution. It will turn from purple to white. You get that immediate color switch, and you can see it in your periphs, and it will fill symmetrically, excuse me, like this until it reaches the these little pips, right, on the left and right. At which point, it will go to the alert state, which is this. Now, this is a lot more kind of in your face. You're not really meant to be looking at this for very long, because, you know, there's really no benefit to being in sneak anymore once you're in the alert phase. But it's something that will tell you, like, yep, they know where you are now. Visually, you see the bar, you see the color, boom, you are in the alert state. And that's kind of like the main goal of this design. And I think it's pretty snazzy myself. I have to kind of implement it. We'll see how it goes. I think it's a lot more space efficient and kind of like immersive with the auto, or like the contextual HUD, than something like the circle, which I still do like. I like that it turns into an eye, but whatever. I mean, honestly, I don't care about it that much. And again, I still feel like maintains this like vanilla styling that I'm not like 100% behind. And then I saw, so Kai said, I think vanilla Skyrim sneak indicator was fine and pretty minimalistic. To be honest, that is something I disagree with personally. Maybe, I mean, you might play vanilla and still think that, but like I think sometimes people forget, and this really might not be the case. You might have played it, you know, recently, and you think this, in which by all means, the vanilla sneak eye is one, it's massive. It is like right over your crosshair, like to the point where it obscures what you're doing. I mean, it's the least obscuring when you're actually in the 0 state, or when you're just barely in caution, because it's just like a line. It's still, to me, kind of like immersion breaking, because it's big and it's opaque, and you can turn down the opacity, but it's still kind of like in your face. And one cool thing about it is that it's smack dab in the center of the screen, which I like, because then you can, you know, kind of see as you become more found, you know, that's happening. But the other major problem, yeah, percentage number would be a cool one too. In fact, that's actually not a bad idea. If we're gonna maybe go, I went with this one because it's like bars, and I think it looks snazzy. But a percentage number could be minimalistic, and it could be just the easiest, you know, kind of most accurate way to do it. Because here's the other problem with the vanilla meter. It's a graphic that fills like this, and it is, yeah, it's okay at the bottom of the screen, but here's the other, it's not by default, but the eye is okay. The big problem with the eye is that you do not know when you are going to transition from caution to alert. There's no, like the same way, like if you look at this, the reason these little pips are here is because you need a visual reference to be able to know when this bar hits that thing, I'm going to be in the alert state. There is not something like that for the vanilla cross or the vanilla sneak meter, which is what prompted the original sneak redesign to begin with. That's a problem. Again, it's a problem in a game where the stealth system has all of these enemies just telepathically know where you are the second you become the second you enter the alert state. You need to know, like, that you hit it, you know what I mean? And you need to know the millisecond that you hit it so that you can react. Otherwise, it's kind of unfair. It doesn't play by the rules. It doesn't play by real human rules. So that's kind of your advantage. So that's the basic concept. Something else I will say, and this kind of full, you know, brings it back to what you guys might have seen in the beginning of the stream, which is where I had the bar. I was testing to see if I can make it shorter. That's harder than you might think, or at least I thought it was, and then I thought of like a solution for it, and I'm very happy to say that my solution seems to have worked. But these bars, right? We're gonna, here, let's undo, let's bring all this stuff back. Even, I don't want to look at that one. We're gonna, nah, let's see, there. So these bars are the vanilla size and scale. And sneaking is also OP in vanilla Skyrim. I mean, that's true, Kai, but it's, you know, it's not OP once you are seen, and also it's not OP for us. Like in Requiem, if anything, it's nerfed too much, so it still creates a problem. Detection arrows mod turn red when you are detected. Yes, they do. So it uses that kind of like color idea, which I think is important. And I think that's why that design existed to begin with. You need to know, boom, the second that it's there. For me, the reason I don't use detection meter is because I think, like, I can see the idea that the sneak meter is already a little bit cheap, because how would your character necessarily know, right? Like, the sneak meter allows you as a player to know when you were detected, even when you as a player have not even identified who is detecting you, right? That's like the cheap part of it. I think that's the thing that people primarily don't like, the people who just don't like using a sneak meter at all. That's the cheapest part of it, and it is. It's cheating the reverse way, right? It's cheating in the sense that, like, if I'm walking around, you just kind of have to take it, if you're trying to explain it away, it's like, oh, well, my character, it's like the D&D thing of like, I didn't notice as a player but my character would have, or like my character sensed that like someone knew of him, saw him, right? Sure, whatever you want to say, but it is cheating. It's cheating the reverse way. The sneak indicator goes even further than that and says, yeah, or like you could gamify it, make it into a perk or something like that. Like that's cool. I like the idea of like progression that way. Now you've turned it into like an actual like perception skill, and that's fun. The detection meter goes a step further and says, hey, not only are you detected, but you're detected by that guy way the fuck over there that you didn't even know was there until you were using the detection meter and it said, hey, there he is, this direction. So, you know, it's all just kind of flavors of the same style of issue. I mean, video games are inherently an abstraction, right? Even the most realistic games, or the games that purport to be the most realistic, have abstractions. There's just, at least with the current technology or like design or whatever, it's pretty difficult to make a game 100% realistic. And so these are the sort of abstractions that sometimes people come up with, and there's different ways to deal with them. Anyway, since I get sidetracked again, these bars, this is talking about like immersion, right? The vanilla, these are the vanilla size and scale bars, or they're a little bit tinier, so not scale, but these are the vanilla dimensions of bars, right? I've kind of been playing with this idea where like, I don't know if the bars need to be this wide. I've always kind of been of the opinion that like it kind of works for vanilla Skyrim's interface, where you have, you know, one bar here and then the other two are over there in the sides of the screen, and the fact that they're in the sides of the screen actually it benefits them to be wider because they're kind of easier to see, right? They're in your periphs, so to speak. When everything's in the center like this, it just kind of makes me question, do these things need to be this wide? Because the wider they are, the more space they take up. Even if you are using the contextual HUD, when one of these bars appear, it's kind of like this, right? Like, let's go back to all the way forward since we already had it set up there. The alert bar, it's, you know, in this design, it's just made to go all the way to the edges of where the other bars are. This is quite the fucking thing for like immersion, quote unquote, right? Like, yeah, I need to know that I'm in the alert state. Do I need this much of knowing that I'm in the alert state? Like, I don't know. Maybe not. And similarly, yeah, I need to know what my health and magic and stamina are. Do I need this much screen real estate to tell me that? Or like, you know, let's do this. Like, oh, whoops, let's go ahead and hide that just for simplicity's sake. If I take these bars and then I just, you know, punch them in, even like a little bit. That's quite a lot of bit. Take you, I'm gonna put you over here. It's roughly the same, right? And then you over here. It's about the same. Are these bars, you know, these ones serve like just as well, I think, you know what I mean? It's like your brain kind of evaluates it as a percentage anyway, I think, and you don't want to go too small, or maybe you can make them a little bigger, like whatever you want. And maybe I'm just overthinking it and this sort of thing doesn't matter, like for some people I'm sure it wouldn't, but this to me is basically the same. And I do think that there's a difference. It might be slight, but I think there's a difference in how much like immersion this breaks, you know what I mean? Or just maybe a better way of phrasing it would be, I think there's a difference in how present the elements feel when they are like, you know, this big versus like blammo, this big. Could you a necklace diegetic HUD like Thief? I've never played Thief actually, so I'm not sure what that is like. Sometimes I like diegetic HUD. Let's see, Thief HUD, say necklace. I'm just getting like random images of like, say Thief game. Thief game. Is it like is there a specific game that has this? Is it Deadly Shadows or which one? Be dope if they would be scaling. What do you mean, Joy Moss? I would post it on the Discord, Azrathus. Scaling how? Because you can't. Oh, here's best adult dating site. You can scale. That's what I mean. Like with a lot of the stuff that I'm learning with the HUD, you can do a lot of stuff. I mean, I'm not saying I can do everything, but you can scale stuff. You can animate things. You can. Wait, where's my channel? Is it here? No. Here? No. Channel dashboard. Here we go. Wait up. Close. My channel. Devstream. Pause. Begone, bot. Might actually be a ring. Does anyone have an example of that? Because I'd be curious to see it. Hide user on this channel. How many accounts has this bot made? Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, you see this in like Morrowind, right? Like again, the Morrowind HUD. If we're opening an image, new tab. Whoopsie. I actually think that Google's like image interface is kind of ass. It's no good. So these bars, like, do they really need to be bigger than this? Like, I don't know, you know? I kind of... More HP. Oh, I understand, Joy. Oh, well, you definitely can do that. You can scale the bars that way. I see what you mean now, where it's like with this design, probably it doesn't work. Which I would agree with. I mean, that's... If you look at our cool-ass... Where'd he go? I got too many windows open now. Nordic UI, it was one of those. But in Untarnished UI, it makes use of that. And also Nordic UI does as well. Like they have kind of like a Dark Souls style, like as your health goes up, then, you know, your bar gets bigger. But yeah, I'm kind of into this. And so if you have something like this, right? Smaller little bars, just a little teensy HUD, because the HUD should be there when you want it, maybe probably not there when you don't. And it should be, you know, minimal and just not... It should feel like a help, not like a weirdo hindrance, right? So, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. What we can do there, you could take like the alert. Now, like the alert is, of course, it's intended to be bright. It's intended to be visible. Oh my god, it just doesn't stop with these bots. This is becoming actually kind of frustrating. Gloomwood you were thinking of. Oh, the new, like, PS1 thief? Thank you. Hide user on this channel. 84% have already found love with us. How about that? Good for them. I'll look that up, because that game looks cool as hell. Gloomwood. Images. I'm gonna say Gloomwood, like, HUD, maybe? Would it show up in any of these? This is Gloomwood, by the way, everybody. If you've not heard of this game, it seems really fucking cool. It's kind of like a PS1 demake visual style, but it's like a thief game, and it's this like, I don't know, not cyberpunk, sorry, like Victorian, maybe ex-steampunk a little bit like vibe. It looks super cool. I wish that there was a picture here of this style of HUD. Oh, maybe, no, that's Team Fortress 2. Well, I could understand the idea. It has no HUD, it's all diegetic. Yeah, sorry, that's what I mean. Oh wait, here we go. So you kind of look down and see exactly what you got going. Love it, very cool. The ring on your hand lights up when in light, very cool. So yeah, that kind of stuff is super fun. I mean, we might be able to do stuff like that, but it's probably would still have just because this is like a very mechanically complex game, right? Like Gloomwood is the kind of game that is trying to do a very specific thing and do it well, which is like stealth gameplay. So all of their, I imagine, kind of like information sharing is based around that. But you know, I mean, never say never. But anyway, what I was gonna say is that with this bar, if these are smaller, you could then make this smaller too. Oopsie. There-ish, right? And then when the other bars are gone, like so, and let's get rid of the icons too. Like, I think that there's, again, it's still, you're supposed to be able to see it, and it's like, blam, you're in alert state. But there's a big difference between that and, like, big wide bar, in my opinion, anyway. So really, this is all kind of like where I'm at with it. Of course, everything is subject to change. I've talked a lot about the HUD. I hope that's still entertaining for you guys. I'm very passionate about this sort of thing. It's very fun for me. And of course, thank you guys also for like all the ideas. Every time I do something like this, I end up thinking about it more and getting something further to like refine it. So I really appreciate that. And if you have any other ideas, feel free to, you know, levy them at me. I'm kind of thinking, based on like something that I'm kind of interested in checking out here is maybe I want to see what a percentage might look like, because percentages, that would be pretty cool for like the sneak meter. You could try it for the bars as well. And I know that well, I would need like a mod that does it. That would be actually kind of tough to do from the HUD itself. But I do kind of like the bars. I like how they seem like visually, right? I think they have a very strong like stylization element. And this, I hope that you guys like this design, because this is probably pretty close to like what it's going to be, to be honest, TBH. And I think the thing that I like most about this, the thing that I like second most, is the ease of just kind of hiding things and the ease of implementing contextuality to a design like this. The thing that I like the most about it is that I do feel like it's uniquely stylized. I feel like there is this kind of vibe to it that's pretty different from everything else that's out there. I think it probably will at least impart a large portion of this like uniqueness that I'm going for. I like the, you know, the slight, it's almost skeuomorphic, if you guys are familiar with that term. Skeuomorphism was like a design trend where we've talked about this before on the channel, but it's this design. God, this song is making me, it's giving me a headache. Tragedy's Pulse, huh? Hard Won Nobility, there we go. This one's a jam. Skeuomorphism is basically like simulating like a real object, right? So there's like little bits of skeuomorphism even in vanilla, like with the bar, like the shine on it, but like Dear Diary is extremely skeuomorphic. It's supposed to look like a physical like leather journal, right? I think that can be cool. I'm generally not a huge fan of skeuomorphism, maybe even just because there was so much of it in like the early or the mid to late 2000s, and then it kind of like, I feel like everyone, it's like when you hear a song on the radio too many times, right? Yeah, old iOS kind of like spearheaded it, and it's just kind of like, ugh. Like I'm just like over it now. It's not really ever been my style, and there's like implementations of it that are subtle, and that works. Like even I think iOS's Note app now has like a subtle degree of like the page kind of looks like a page, like there's this slight texturing on it that makes it look a little bit like a piece of paper, but it's not like a full-on leather-bound journal, right? Which is not really my style. Anyway, I like these bars because I do think that they have this like this degree of like this very slight kind of like, you know, what's it called, texturing on it gives it this feeling of like raw vitality that I think is like important to the idea of this difficult, brutal, beautiful but brutal survival world. And yeah, I hope you guys like the design. Probably the final design will incorporate, you know, components of this, if not kind of the whole thing. The one thing I'm still deciding is like exactly where to, and there's some other, you know, kind of UI elements that are not featured here. You know, you'll have the, what's it called? Compass, of course. Also, I'm trying to implement like a stylized HUD or like a consistent HUD for followers, right? That will appear as well, probably somewhere over here, and so on and so forth. And yeah, we'll just kind of figure out how it goes. And thank you guys for listening to me talk about it, because I've been working on it a lot, and it's really fun to show off and get your feedback and yada yada. Yes, the whole Oblivion UI, I think Oblivion's UI, it's almost like a metal compass style, and you know, again, it's right smack dab in kind of like when that stuff was popular. It's like that kind of mid to late 2000s HUD style. Oblivion's is pretty cool. Still not my style though, or not what I'm kind of looking for my vibe, I guess you might say. Yeah, we were talking about that. You could make the bars bigger based on your stats, but for me, I probably wouldn't opt into that kind of thing. I kind of like have it consistent. And it's just like, you know, the more health you get, it's just a smaller percentage of the bar would get taken up by the same attack or whatever, right? But there are designs that do that. It's like Dark Souls style. And of course, if this is, you know, our symmetrical bottom center design, what I definitely don't want is like, one, the bars are going to increase in size at a different rate, right? So it might look kind of weird when, let's say, my health like rapidly expands outward this way, which would have to push the other elements out as well. That's actually tough to do, at least for my skill set. And then it would look kind of strange when like then the magicka appears and it's only this big, but like the icons are out over here, right? One question, V3. That's a great question, Sheep. Thank you for asking. Without the eye-equipped circle or square background, the plan for torch and enchantment meters. So I'm not 100% decided. I'm thinking one option was to kind of have like a similar bar like this, right? Or actually, I'll just grab the, what's it called? This is a cutscene, sad cutscene song. Let's take you, and then we're gonna duplicate it just for funsies. And then we're gonna go here, and then we're gonna, to have kind of something like this where you have it over the thingy or under or to the side or whatever. I think that could work. It's not great though. What I would like to do, my first plan, kind of plan A, is I would like to. This is a good song. I like the song a lot. I would like to take the... So normally iEquip has this feature, right, where it lowers... God, this is a good song. Sorry, wait. Here, guys. Let's listen to this. Well, okay. I'm going to restart this song in a second because it's really good. iEquip has this feature where it will fill... It can fill your, like, the actual icon itself according to the temper level, right? And and that's the last thing. Fuck, it's already 3 o'clock, but I'll talk about that too in a second. Remind me to talk about the tempering, because this is important. I'm hoping, I've seen the code that's responsible, at least I believe I have, for filling or like draining the icon based on temper level. We don't use that, and we're not gonna use that, because the way that it works is kind of wonky. It's like, we used to use it, but the top to bottom, like the very bottom where it becomes like a red, we'll say, it was supposed to indicate when you would go from like, you know, we'll say like tier 3, like steel or high grade, to tier 2, and then it would refill again, and players were getting understandably confused because they would like temper their item, and let's say that put them like 1/3 of the way through like tier 4, their weapon would be like in caution because it's, you know, 30%, 33% into tier 4, which like iEquip would evaluate as like, oh, it's the tempering's going down, and then it would go again, if that makes sense. So it was like, but I was like, yo, if I could adjust that code so that instead of looking at tempering, it's looking at your enchantment level or your, you know, the timer on the torches, that could work perfectly. Then I could have, you know, an enchanted weapon would do... It's actually really cool. I can show you guys how it works. Here, you can even see. So I'm high grade right now, tier 2 tempering. Let's see what happens. It actually might just crash. Sometimes iEquip does that because I've fucked with it a bunch. Misc UI options, temper item, use custom temper, show temper tier indicators, fade icon as item degrades. Perfect. Change color at 30, 20%. Color icons full icon. So let's see if it updates. And it might, or it could just be that I have full tempering. I'm actually not sure. This is important to what I'm about to say too. Let's see here. Can I like temper this less, or like here? Why don't I help Elven Sword? Add item. Let's go up here. 139A1. Player add. There we go. I think I actually have some moonstone in my inventory. Also, that torch is right in my face, isn't it? Shh. Elven Sword. I guess I don't need to equip it. Get out of here. Yes. Apple super into that. They kind of spearheaded it, if I'm honest. Do I not have any moonstone? Oh, I don't have calcinium. That's what I need. Ingot. Calc. 01cc06454 10. I'm swimming in calcinium. I hope this... It's kind of luck of the draw here, where it's going to put us. Perfect. Okay, so that's a great example of the issue. Why we don't use this feature is like, I just tempered my weapon. Why does it look as though it's about to break, right? For most people's like visual perception. It's because what that red bit means is that as I continue to use the sword, also it's not in my hand, hilariously, it's gonna go from the 2 tiers down to, in fact, you know, maybe I can even do it. Oh, that's why my hand is like that. I would have to do this a bunch. You can see it going down ever so slightly. Probably, I think. Either way, I'm not gonna do that, because who wants to watch that? Just to take my word for it, that when the bar goes all the way down, it's gonna refill back up to the top, and be completely filled with white, and then the diamond tier indicator will go down 1. So that's not really how I would want it to work. That's why we don't use it. But because we don't use it, like I said, maybe I can co-opt that functionality, so instead of looking at tempering, it looks at your enchantment level. And there's already code within iEquip, and I'm pretty sure, like, I remember looking at that code. I don't think it's complicated. So maybe I can do that. If not, you know, maybe I'll find a bar, or we'll find some way to do it. Or hell, maybe I'll still use the iEquip radial things, like if we want to. That wouldn't be the worst. Even with this, you know, what's it called, the other design. It's still a bar, and it's free floating, so it kind of fits. But who knows? We'll evaluate, and we'll see what makes the most sense. And yeah, that's pretty much that. And tempering. I'll talk about... Oh, does anyone... Okay, before I continue, because I'm going to have to wrap up pretty quick here, I'm going to talk about kind of the differences, or the changes coming to tempering and whatever. Does anyone have any questions, any thoughts or ideas and input or whatever on any of the stuff we've talked about, or the HUD or anything like that? Because if you do, feel free to hit me up. Also, after I sign off, I'm going to go and butt chug like 40 ounces of water, because normally I drink water while I stream, and I forgot it in the other room. I've just been so jazzed to talk about the HUD, of course. Different colors for each tier while seeing the one underneath. Yeah, you could do that, Pulse. So one reason why I'm probably not going to, I think that's a great idea. That's a good way to present that. I won't go too far into like the mechanical changes to like the tempering gameplay, I guess you might say. But I can talk a little bit about this. First and foremost, I've seen a lot of players get confused in the latest update. In the latest update, we yeeted... Like, in the latest update, you kind of have this, what you see here. You have the temper tier indicator, which is something I introduced. And you don't have the temper in the name. And the reason for that, for those of you who don't know, is that there is a bug with Sky UI, specifically with the Sky UI equip groups. And if you're not familiar with those, which sometimes people aren't, so I'll show you. This is the, favorites interface, and this is an equip group. So you have this, I mean, it's a cool feature. F group, select a group, put it in there. You go in the equip group. You can even save the equip state, so that'll remember that it's in my right hand. And the purpose of this is that you can put multiple bits of equipment in here, right? And including armor and gear. And when you hit the key corresponding to that equip group, which in this case is F1, it's supposed to equip everything that's in there. That's great. Equip groups, super cool. There is a problem with equip groups that is, as far as I know, been in Sky UI since, forever. There have been a couple the issue as we understand it, and Lizzie really did a lot of like but we kind of knew like generally what caused the issue, but we think that Lizzie's even found, you know, the specific SKSE function that's causing the issue. We just don't know why. Like, we don't have neither she nor I are reverse engineer RE wizards, so, you know, we're hoping someone maybe will take a look at it, but, you know, we can't hold our breath for that. Without getting too deep into the technicals, when like an item changes name for whatever reason, Sky UI no longer understands that it is the same item. And the reason it would change name is because of tempering, right? Like, tempering changes the name of items to, you know, Elven Sword high grade or whatever you want to call it. Or like, there's many mods that allow you to adjust what the temper name changes to, but all of them change the name. Name is an ID, yes, and not like form ID. This is what's kind of complex. This is like technical. No, not the editor ID either. Yeah, it's not even just the form ID. It's like the individual object ID, yeah, CRC, that gets passed to SKSE. And this results not only in the equip groups breaking, as in when you hit the button, whatever item whose name has changed will no longer get equipped the way that it's supposed to. It actually breaks those items in equip groups permanently for that save, because it's like, or at least like, I'm not sure if that's still the case, because there is a bug fix for that part. It's called the ghost item bug fix, and we have that. So it might be, Lizzie would know better than I would, that bug fix might at least prevent the equip groups from being permanently broken on a save basis. But suffice to say, it's still broken, right? It still doesn't work the way that it's supposed to, and I know it has been an endless source of frustration for users. We attempted to fix this by, you know, preventing. The reason I even added this like temper tier indicator shit is to make it so that the names don't have to change, right? It's the short version is that it's still broken. It seems maybe not as much, but definitely it still breaks eventually, and we are really at a loss for like what to do about it. I'm smiling because secretly, me personally, I kept and also just quick to say, this whole like no longer having the tempering show up in the name was also not like an ideal solution, because one, for the reasons we mentioned earlier with the temper tiers, it is possible to, like, when you first temper an item, especially, it's common, likely even, that when you are tempering when you're a you know, baseline basic smith, you don't have that many skill or points in the crafting skill yet, you'll go to temper your weapon and it won't be enough temper to get it over that like 100% that you would need to get into what's called temper tier 1, right? Maybe you're tempering it to 50% or whatever, because that's basically how tempering works. If you guys don't know, the items are given what's called item health in the extra data. It's called item health, and it ranges like 100%. In vanilla is as low as it goes. Mods like durability mods, like item durability, allow it to go lower than 100%. That's how we get like degradation, right? Temper tier 1 is, temper tier 0 is anything between 100% and 199. Temper tier 1 is 200% to 299, and so on and so forth. So if you temper an item to only 150%, because that's the maximum you can do with your current skills, there is nothing currently visually indicating that you have tempered your weapon. And we've seen many users since 1.8 came out, whatever one, 1.6, I don't remember, Lizzie would know. We've seen many users get confused by this. It is not only a change to the expected behavior, which is always a difficult thing. Sometimes it's worth it because whatever implementation you've introduced is, you know, better for some reason. It's not only a change to expected behavior, but it's also just a bad implementation. It's the lack of user feedback is significant, and it really doesn't work. So, and again, it doesn't solve the problem that it's intended to solve. So bundle that all up. So that's where we're at. The reason I was smiling before, also this music's too scary. Oh, best song in the game coming up right now. We're gonna up it. It's perfect because I think this is good news, actually, in my opinion. Way back in the day, in fact, actually, Alt Sky, the last playable version, might have used this. We used a mod called Categorized Favorites Menu. Some of you may be familiar with this already. This is a very good mod, if you ask me. This is a specific, preset that someone made. It's not the core mod, but it does a good job of demonstrating it. This is the favorites menu that Categorized Favorites Menu implements. Instead of, the Sky UI equip group, which looks like this over here. And we helped this one. We made it a little bit bigger. It's fine. I left it in here for Wildlander for accessibility purposes. I was like, okay, people know the Sky UI favorites menu, maybe I'll just kind of leave it, right? And probably there's a good chance that I would leave it still if these equip groups worked, but they don't, and it seems unlikely that it's going to be fixed. This is one of those things where I'm not going to fix it. I've been meaning to learn, reverse engineering stuff for a while. This is not the task that I'm going to use to learn, because I think Sky UI equip groups are cool. I don't like them as much as I like this. This, to me, has always been way more useful. I like that I can see a bajillion different things, because, over the course of especially if you're a spellcaster, but over the course of an entire playthrough, chances are you have a lot of different tools and abilities and things at your disposal. You favorite a lot of stuff in most playthroughs of Skyrim, and even when we expand the how much stuff shows per equip or per favorites menu, to me it's just still kind of, it takes too long to navigate. Maybe it's better for gamepad. That's kind of another reason that I left it in there. But to be honest, I don't think that it's that much more usable. I think the favorites menu is going to be kind of a pain in the ass on gamepad anyway. And I think this one's way more usable to me because you can just see everything. It's primarily intended for mouse and keyboard users, obviously, because you can just take your mouse and click there, click there, click there. And you're equipped to do whatever. And it also has its own equip set stuff. It works a little bit differently than Sky UI. You have to go into this menu in order to implement them. I don't think there's a hotkey the same way, but that doesn't take any time at all. That's the whole purpose of this. It's somewhat immersion breaking, I think, for people to have a big menu appear, and I understand that component. I don't know. What I'm also considering doing is implementing the Elden equip cyclers, so maybe we'll have some alternative tools to prevent people from going into these menus if they have to. But I do really like the what's it called? The categorized favorites menu. I think it's super functional. I've always kind of secretly preferred it to the Sky UI equip groups, and the very likely outcome to me is that we will be moving to categorized favorites menu, right? Because the Sky UI equip groups are not working. Again, I find it more functional. I find that if there's, the cool thing about the favorites menu is that it doesn't obscure the rest of the screen, so maybe someone finds that more immersive. But to me, it's all about how much time am I spending in menus versus playing the game. And for me, the Sky UI equip group, I always spend more time in the menus, except for, when I get to use the equip groups, but they don't work. Even then, there's oftentimes stuff that I don't have in equip groups, just, spells or something that I need to use. And I find that I spend more time in the menu with this version of the favorites menu versus categorized favorites menu, which I've always preferred. It feels more like the power user version, right? Yeah, if you've ever played a mage, a real-ass pure mage, categorized favorites menu is just so much better, in my opinion. I don't, better is a strong word. It's just so much, you spend a lot less time in the menu, and that's what I'm here for. I want to be in the action, baby. So pretty likely that that's going to be the case. A final note that I'll leave you guys with is that someone asked about the skills system. This is kind of related. Kind of yes, kind of no. To answer, so like Pulse said earlier, like here's maybe what you could do with the tempering tiers. What I am actually pretty likely to do, so like one of the things that many people might have noticed about Wildlander, especially compared to other lists, is that there is not a lot in the way of new armors, new weapons, right? There's a few, and there's like, especially like with clothing and stuff, but really not. Like, it's kind of more, the standard stuff has been made to look better. It's got different meshes and textures and whatever, but in terms of like weapon and armor variety, there's not much of anything in there. The reason for that is because I've mentioned this system before, but I've been silently working on this kind of weapon and armor rebalance that is related to the skills system, and the way that it will very likely work is that tempering is going to be like the new primary mechanism by which weapons and armors scale. You will also be able to make like weapons and armors in like many different material types. This whole system that I'm building, what it essentially does, it's a large scale rebalance of how everything works. It's a total reimagining of the weapon and armor balance for the purpose of like material bonuses, right? In the vanilla game and in Vanilla Requiem, the material types are the scaling mechanism, right? Easy example, steel is worse than we'll use the light tree, is worse than elven, right? Which is worse than glass, which is then worse than Dragonbone or Daedric or whatever. These materials are how the game scales, like, oh, this weapon's better than that one, which is really boring because then, I mean, we introduced degradation to like kind of help with this a little bit, but you just never ever have any reason at all to use a elven sword over a glass one, as long as the glass one is not just in piss poor condition, which it's not, right? You never find weapons out in the world that are in any sort of differing condition. That's another thing that's going to change. So what you can imagine here is just a total kind of overhaul of the way, a total Skyrim overhaul of how the weapons and armors work, built around this kind of material bonus system where all of the different material types have different bonuses. And the scaling is instead, I mean, like generally speaking, let's say you found like an ebony sword and an elven sword of the same kind of like level, we'll say. The ebony sword's probably still gonna be overall the better of the two, just because of how rare ebony is, right? But this, to be clear, you absolutely could get an elven sword that is better both in terms of raw damage and also in terms of material bonus than the ebony sword, right? So the materials are kind of like equalized more, and then the scaling mechanism is actually going to be tempering. So there's not really temper tiers anymore, like in this system, because it doesn't, what the fuck even is like a tempering tier anyway? Like, it doesn't really mean much, you know what I mean? Like you have, again, to remind you, like temper tier 1, 200% to 299% health. Temper tier 2, 300% to 399. There's a lot of fucking damage variance between 300% and 399. So why do I even have these tiers? Why is it divided that way, right? It doesn't really make sense from the outset, to me anyway. So really what you have is just like with, it's all, if you're noticing a trend at this point, same thing as the skills system, same thing as the needs with the bars. You have scaling bonuses based on like where something is like on the curve. This is to ensure that like, and this is of course how the tempering already works, you just don't know it visually, so it's pretty cool. That's why I'm using tempering as the baseline. What you will see here is now we're not the reason I haven't added weapons and armors and things like that is because where do they fit into the balance? This has always been an issue with like people who are trying to add weapons and armors and stuff, is usually what it'll be, this is arbitrary here, but it's like, oh, cool new weapon mod that adds like this dope as fuck looking sword, right? And you have this issue whereby like that sword is just balanced the same way any other weapon is. So like maybe the creator balanced it to be like a steel sword, in which case like, yeah, you might use it early game, but very quickly you're going to then move beyond it, and now you never get to see that cool ass sword model again. Or conversely, it's a cool ass sword model that you only ever see at endgame, and that's it, right? Or really anywhere in the curve. With this system, you can, in theory, see a sword of whatever model at any time, right? Like, if you wanted it that way, you could have a cool sword. Like, it's not like, you're not bound the same way with, like, the balance, right? Like, I can take whatever sword model I want. I can take this sword model, you know, the Elven sword model, default, and I can make it as good or as shitty as I want to, which means I can now, I'm unlocked and free in terms of where I sprinkle in all the cool-ass sword and armor models, right? And with each one of these models, you could have like I could have like this model, but I could have it be Elven, Orcish, Ebony, Glass, Steel, whatever. I can have each model, you can make different materials like a different material version of the weapon or armor or whatever it is. So the reason I haven't added them in previously is because I've been kind of silently working on this system in the background. This is a system that's not going to hit until at least 2.0. It might be in there with 2.0 because so much of 2.0 is about kind of like the system rebalances. It makes sense. It's just, you know, we haven't planned that far ahead, so we'll see. But that's how it's going to work, and so that's why, summarily, I guess I don't even know if that information is necessary, but it's fun, and I haven't talked a ton about it, I don't think. Ipso facto, the temper names very likely are going to make a return between the new system where tempering is, and it's not going to be like high grade. It's going to be something like, I was fucking around here just to see which characters I included in the font library. Thankfully, we have all of them. So just imagine that, like you'll find a sword, right? Steel sword. It'll be like steel armsman's sword, and it'll probably just have a little number in here with the cute little brackets because I think they're cool. And that number will be, and this is at least how it's currently planned to display, it's not guaranteed, but you can think of that number as like, if you've ever played a game like Destiny, right? I think Destiny has a system like this where you can have a gun that like the quality rating is like high up, right? And that's essentially the analog for condition, right? Like you're finding these weapons and whatever that are either in really good, it's like a really well-made fucking, you know, the highest numbers that you can get to are your like Hattori Hanzo steel, right? And comparatively, the lower the number is, it's going to be analogous to like, oh, this weapon is in really poor condition, so it doesn't work super well. And again, the idea there being that like your Hattori Hanzo steel might eventually, or like you might find a sword that was like, when it was made, oh boy, this sword was the fucking, like it was the best, like it was, the craftsmanship was fantastic and it looks amazing and whatever. It's just been used so much that it's now degraded to the point where it's not really, it doesn't work that much better than like a, you know, your standard mass-produced sword. But you can then temper it back up. You can repair it to like be as good as it once was. Or conversely, you can start with like a shitty-ass mass-produced soldier's blade, and if you have the skills and you specialize in that material type or whatever, you can really like repair the shit out of that sword and really temper it and hone it to where like, yeah, maybe it started as a standard issue military sword, but you're a master smith and you just now took that thing and made it excellent. So this is the idea. It's just the idea, almost primarily, excuse me, is that I just want to keep you guys excited about finding new shit out in the world. I hate the idea that once I have elven things, any of the steel things I find are just completely boring. Or like the best, we try to help it somewhat by allowing you to like break them down and like use the materials in different stuff. This is just a natural extension of that idea. It's giving you even more utility for the stuff that you find. You can break it down, or you might actually want to use it. You're not going to be in that situation, portmanteau. Scenario, I like it. You're not going to be in the scenario where you have a glass sword and now the vast majority of weapons that you find are just, you don't even care anymore. That's lame to me. This is, at the end of the day, this is an open world RPG that is fundamentally about like exploring the world and finding stuff. You know what I mean? So I don't know. That's the idea, and we'll talk more about it as we go along. It's 3:24 now, so I definitely have to sign off. And yeah, you know, that's the stuff. You got any questions or comments? Make it harder to obtain the materials for increasing the quality of the weapons. Yes, absolutely. Or just then you get to plug it back into the economy. You know what I mean? You just fucking, what's it called? Either you go to a place where the materials are abundant and cheap, and of course certain material types are going to be more expensive, or like you balance it all around this. You would kind of need to, as you pointed out, like make sure that the balance of availability of materials matches this, but that would all be kind of incorporated into the system. Also, yes, Praxis, it does sound like that mod. And I really liked that mod a lot. This is the mod that makes it so that your weapons like get better as you use them, right? Which I thought was actually pretty cool because it's kind of precedented, right? Like even if I have like a shitty sword, let's say, or just like not the world's best sword, you still, by using the same sword over and over again, you're probably going to get better with that specific sword. You'll know kind of the weight, the heft of it. You'll know kind of the particularities of that sword. The same way that, like, you know, if you have a favorite tool of any kind, even in the ways in which it's like deficient, you kind of like learn to compensate for. So I really liked that idea, and I was thinking about adding it in when it was released. But unfortunately, the way it implements its bonus is through the tempering system, and we use the tempering system for condition of the weapon. So that at least makes it like a hard incompatibility. In theory, we could try and implement like a familiarity system that gives you one more consideration for whether or not you should use a different weapon. Or it's like in some of my favorite, like I remember in Final Fantasy Tactics, you had this like the skill system, like the spells essentially, or abilities. You would it's really cool. You would like, you had a ability that was tied to a weapon, right? And like the more you use that weapon, eventually you would master that ability, and then once you mastered the ability, then you could use a different weapon and you would still be able to use the ability that you mastered. I thought that was really fun. And it's kind of akin to that. So you could program in something like that, perhaps. It's actually kind of tough to do. Like Skyrim as an engine is not good at serialization, is what it's called. So like tracking individual like items, like data and shit. That's why there's so many peculiarities with the tempering systems, because that's what it's doing. But yeah, summarily this is how it all works, and yada yada yada. Eventually, hacking Skyrim for the things we want is what we already do. I know what you mean. It's like SKSE is the way, and I almost, and I still might, I guess, but for my skills system, hacking into, like hooking into the engine with actual like C++ and like getting some of those engine functions would actually be really nice, specifically to create more skills, which is the fundamental need that like we don't have. I almost am gonna do it, but it would take a lot. I have a bunch of resources like set up to learn it eventually, but I kind of already have a working system for doing what I want to do. and it doesn't require me to learn SKSE. So in terms of time investment, like currently it's still probably not worth it for me to learn SKSE just to do what it is I'm trying to do because I have an implementation that works. Who knows? That might change in the future. I mean, that's how it's worked for all this stuff, is like, I'm the kind of person where I love to learn new things, like, don't get me wrong. It's super fun. Sometimes it's frustrating, of course, but it's really fun. It's just a matter of time. Time is my scarcest resource. I have to use it intelligently. Between, you know, having to do other work to support, like, Wildlander, the time that I have, it comes at like an extreme premium. And if I am able to, like, you know, approximate 95% of a feature based on my design with a method that I already know, I'm probably gonna do it that way, right? But there might be, like, somewhere along the line, like, this is how it's worked for every single skill with, like, Skyrim modding that I didn't have, like, even coding in Papyrus, right? Which, like, Papyrus, as far as code languages go, is not particularly complex. It's a little weird, I think, for some people who are moving from, like, C++ to Papyrus or coding in Papyrus. I think most of them just end up writing SKSE plugins anyway. I would. But I didn't learn Papyrus until I absolutely had to, and then once I had to, I did it. It wasn't that hard, and then, you know, I can at least to get the basics down, and I've kind of progressed it further and further. And that's been rad. But, you know, that's enabled us to do so many things that we have not been able to do in the past. And maybe it'll end up being the same with, you know, C++ and SKSE. But as of now, I don't have a super, super compelling reason to do it yet. And if I do, then, you know, looks like we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Anyway, I'm past my time. I hope you guys enjoyed this stream. I had a really good time. I'm tired of... Man, I've been talking a lot for 3 hours. But thank you for listening and for hanging out and letting me talk about all these things that I've been working on, because it is very fun for me. And let me go ahead, and again, questions, comments, you know where to find me. Shoot me a message. I'm pretty accessible. Yeah, no suggestions, which is honestly, I can crank out 50 times as many suggestions offline as and I don't, is it fun to, like, watch? Maybe it is. I don't know. Wait, before I go, and while I'm finding someone to stream, for those of you guys who are, like, lurking and hanging out, would you prefer a stream that is me talking about these kinds of things that I've been working on, or do you find, like, going through mod suggestions preferably? I guess those are kind of like the same in a sense, because you're still talking about the project and the philosophy. Or are you just indifferent? Like, if anyone feels like answering, I'd be happy to listen to the feedback or to hear it. Also, not a lot of people that I know who are streaming. I think it's gonna have to be Dragon Blitz. I know that I'm okay, actually here. Poll time. Enthusiasm is fun to watch. Okay, well, so as long as I'm enthusiastic, then maybe it's still worth it. Love seeing me code, huh? Oh man, I don't know if I have the what's it called? I don't know if I'm secure enough in my coding ability to be able to do that on stream, but I'd probably learn a lot. That would be useful, because I'm baby's first coder over here. Here's the poll. It's gonna be speedrunners, because there's no Skyrim people that I know streaming. Poll, say question, which speedrun game? It's gonna be choice between Castlevania Symphony of the Night and Doom Eternal. Both of which are honestly great speed games. Yeah, I'm sure it would fast-pace my learning. Yes, as long as everyone is kind to me. I'm too fragile. That's the word I was looking for. And be like, why are you coding it that way? That's super inefficient. But honestly, like, everyone's always really nice. And I'm sure I would learn, like, a ton versus just kind of sitting in a cave, doing stuff the only way I know how. Get your votes in now. These are two very different types of speed games, by the way. Obviously. Both excellent. Very different. You like watching crazy-ass Twitch-based FPS stuff? Obviously Castlevania. You like watching, you know, side-scrolling, also very Twitch skill-based? Obviously Doom Eternal. Both runners, it's Waifu runs for Doom Eternal. Awesome, dude. Dragon Blitz for Castlevania. Oh, wow. Symphony of the White. What? Symphony of the White? Symphony of the Night. Symphony of the White. Kid Rock. This is Dragon Blitz. Dragon Blitz is super dope. And I strongly recommend sticking around. I'm going to have to run myself, unfortunately. But check him out for sure. And thank you guys for hanging out, per usual. I really appreciate it. It's always really fun to say hello and to check in and talk about everything we've been working on. I'm going to go drink a bunch of water and hydrate myself. Because also, does coffee dehydrate you? Oh yeah, sorry, the polls Twitch only. I don't know how to do... maybe you can do polls on Restream. That's what I'm using to stream to both platforms. I don't know, actually. But I'll figure it out. Anyway, yeah, thank you guys very much for hanging out. Again, you know where to find me. You got comments, questions, feedback. Go ahead and shoot me a PM. And I believe I should be here next week as well. So I will see you guys then. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Yeah, coffee is a diuretic, and it makes you pee and it dehydrates you. That's right. Well, I think, like most Americans, I'm probably terminally dehydrated. Not terminally, perpetually. Hopefully not terminally. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Please take care of yourselves. Stay safe. Have a wonderful week as well. This is a good song. And I'll see you next week, okay? Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, VOD watchers. It's just, everyone else is gone. It's just you and me. Thanks for watching this far. That's crazy.